The protagonist imagined a life surrounded by his favorite plants. He pictured himself living peacefully with a soft, playful cat. That quiet and simple life was what he wanted most. But it was only a dream. In reality, he worked like a machine at his company, trapped in endless overtime. His break had ended 10 minutes earlier, yet he kept working. Energy drinks kept him going, even as his body grew tired. Later that night, he rode the last train home. He reminded himself to take care of his cacti and potted plants when he arrived. They needed his attention, and caring for them was one of the few things that made him happy. A train employee tried to wake him, saying the train had reached the final stop. Still, his thoughts stayed on his plants. The employee's voice felt loud and annoying. He only wanted to sleep a little longer and return to his peaceful dream. The employee grew frustrated and tried to wake him more forcefully. Then a boy suddenly opened his eyes. He found himself sitting in a carriage, feeling dazed. It had been a long time since he last saw that dream. The female carriage driver had been the one waking him. She had been calling him the young master from the capital. The boy Rito Ricardo, who was 19, asked what had happened. The driver apologized for waking him and asked him to look ahead. A giant tree had fallen across the road, blocking their path. A river ran along the right side while a cliff stood on the left. Passing through would not be easy. The driver looked troubled, but Rito was amazed by the tree's size. She suggested turning back and taking another route. That would delay their trip by 5 days, and she asked if he would be all right with that. Rito thought the delay did not seem so bad. It felt like a common event during travel. But the driver seemed worried. He wondered why. She explained that she was delivering something from the imperial capital and had to complete it within 2 days. If she failed, her pay would be reduced and her workload would increase. The pressure overwhelmed her. Rito turned toward the fallen tree and walked closer. The driver tried to stop him, but he told her to stay back because it could be dangerous. He placed his hand on the massive trunk and told it to move. With a single word and a light touch, the tree began to shift. In his previous life, Rito had died on a train. He believed it was caused by overwork after staying awake for 3 straight nights. After that, he was reborn in a world called Harmonia. When he reached the spring of his 16th year, he became known as a hero. The giant tree took the shape of a 4-legged beast. Rito told the driver to steer toward the nearby river. The tree moved forward and crashed into the water with a loud splash. Rito said that should fix the problem. The carriage girl stared in shock. She thought it was amazing. She tried to guess what kind of magic he used. She wondered if it was wind magic or mind control. Rito said it was a trade secret. He asked her to keep it quiet. She wondered if she could at least brag about it. Rito strongly refused. He said they should keep moving. She agreed and thanked him for clearing the road. As they continued their trip, Rito explained in his mind what he had done. He had used plant magic. He combined growth acceleration and life decay on the giant tree, and switched between them while moving it little by little. Plant mages were rare. In fact, he was the only one in the world. Standing out was dangerous for him. He had once been reborn in Harmonia. He had been given the title of hero as if it had been planned. After he ended the Centennial War against the demons, peace returned to the land. With his plant magic, he wiped out the demons and saved the world. Even after all that, his life did not improve. For reasons he did not understand, he was put on trial while chained. It felt no different from his life before he was reborn. 3 years later, after many events, he left the capital. He spent 10 days riding in a slow cattle carriage. He could have traveled faster in a dragon carriage, but he preferred the slow pace. It gave him time to think. Living as a calm noble felt strange to him. The girl asked about his work. She thought he had been an elite mage in the capital. Rito admitted that he was unemployed. She guessed he had quit and moved to the countryside. He explained that he had not truly quit. He had been fired, so he left everything behind. By everything, he meant his old goals and titles. He once carried the weight of being a hero and a saint. Now he carried none of that. He was no longer a servant to anyone. For the first time, he felt free. He planned to live life on his own terms. The girl then announced that they were nearing the largest city under the guild union's control. Over 100 guilds operated there. No one was bound to any nation or ruler. She believed his goals could come true in that place. Rito looked out the carriage window. He wondered if this city would truly give him the freedom he sought. At last, he arrived at the land of freedom, Gartland. Rito went straight to a pub and enjoyed a mug of beer. He felt very happy to finally drink it. In the capital, alcohol was banned until a person turned 20. This other world had strict rules. The food, however, was still the same as always. It tasted bad. Most dishes were either too salty or had no taste at all. Rito could not compare it to the wide variety of food from modern Japan. Harmonia was the world where he had been reincarnated 20 years ago. It was the largest of the 4 landmasses in that world. The continent had an hourglass shape, split into the north and the south. The Rassia Empire ruled the northern continent. The Guild Union governed the south as an autonomous region. Rito was currently in Gartland, the largest city under the Guild Union on the southern continent. The city looked very different from the capital. There had been no war here, so the buildings were well kept and pleasing to look at. The pub owner asked if the snacks suited his taste. Rito agreed that they matched well with beer. The owner seemed pleased. She also noticed right away that he looked like someone from the Empire. Rito wondered if he truly looked like an Imperial. She pointed out his refined manner and posture, saying that even the way he sat made the pub feel more elegant. Seeing that he looked young and charming, she wondered why someone like him had come to a place like this. Rito explained that he had come for his ambition. The owner found that interesting for someone his age and told him to take his time growing stronger there. Rito assumed the owner did not know who he really was, judging by how she treated him. Still, people kept guessing he came from the capital. Since arriving, he had quietly observed others and they all reacted the same way. They recognized he was from the Empire, but no one reacted to the name Rito. News about him being the hero had not reached the southern continent yet. No one there knew about hero Rito Ricardo. Rito had traveled all that way to live alone. He planned to buy wasteland far from any human settlement. There he would spend his time studying the plants and magic he loved. One day he hoped to fill that empty land with those plants. Living peacefully like that was his true ambition. In this place, that dream could become real. To everyone there, he was only an ordinary young man. If that was the case, he needed to buy land as soon as possible. He planned to approach it like completing a game. This time he believed he would finally gain true freedom. He raised a small bottle that held a single seed inside. When he went to the Land Management Bureau, an employee refused to sell him the land because he did not have enough money. The employee explained that the place Rito wanted to buy was far away from everything. Even an empty wasteland would not be that cheap. The employee also explained that the prices in Gartland were written in large gold coins. These coins were used only for big purchases like land, so it made sense that Rito did not know about them. One large gold coin was worth 10 regular gold coins. This meant that even if his leather pouch was full of gold coins, it still would not be enough. Rito was shocked by how expensive the land was. He had saved a lot of money during his time as a hero, but it still fell short. The realtor then asked if Rito belonged to a guild. Rito confirmed that he did not. The realtor explained that guild members could apply for loans, and not belonging to one made many things harder. They were in a region run by guilds after all. He suggested that joining a guild could help. Having a dream was fine, but being part of a group could help Rito earn money step by step and build a stable life. Rito refused. He did not want to belong to anything. The realtor assumed Rito was giving up. Instead, Rito declared that he would earn the money. He asked the realtor to prepare the land paperwork because he would return by lunch. If he waited too long, someone else might buy the land. The realtor tried to stop him, but Rito left anyway. The land was about a week away by slow carriage. It was a barren place where no one ever went, yet it was still called a great piece of land. On top of that, Rito only had 2 hours to gather the money. He wondered what he could do. He had not expected the price to be so high. He could not even accept quests without joining a guild. He decided he needed to make money through trade, something related to plants. The materials would be cheap, but the finished goods could sell for a high price. If he could secure a bulk order, he might manage it. Still, the realtor's advice about joining a guild stayed in his mind. While he was lost in his thoughts, he suddenly heard noise from a nearby alley. When he looked, he saw 5 rough-looking men surrounding one girl. He guessed they were either trying to rob her or hurt her, since they kept demanding something from her. They pushed the girl down onto the ground. He hated scenes like this. He hated people who bullied the weak, and he hated those who pretended not to see it even more. People passing by only stared and whispered as they walked away. The thugs even planned to capture the girl so they could sell her. Rito could not wait any longer. He threw seeds forward and commanded them to grow. Thick branches shot out and wrapped tightly around the men. Flowers bloomed along the branches and released pollen into the air. Within seconds, the thugs collapsed onto the ground. Rito believed they had only fallen asleep. He wanted to leave before anyone saw his face. If people made a big scene and he became well known, it would only get in the way of his goal. The girl slowly groaned and stood up. Rito saw no clear injuries on her. She began speaking in a proud and noble manner, as if calling down divine punishment on those who tried to harm her. Though she did not expect to see the thugs already unconscious, Rito felt surprised that a cat girl carried herself with such strong pride and said those words out loud. The cat girl turned toward him and pointed at him. She believed he was the one who saved her. Rito became so distracted by her bold attitude that he missed his chance to slip away. He tried to deny it, but she saw no one else nearby who could have helped her. After staring at him for a while, she decided he must be someone with a special background, possibly a master from the imperial capital. Rito felt uneasy and wondered how she could know anything about him. She admitted she did not truly know him, yet she sensed he was trying to begin a new life. She then introduced herself as Manma and expressed her pleasure at meeting him. Rito realized this was a problem. If Manma kept asking questions, his identity would be revealed. At the very least, rumors would spread. If that happened, he would face the same trouble again. He wanted to apologize and make the girl sleep, but he did not have time. In the end, he admitted that he was the one who saved her. Manma became excited when she learned she was right. Rito then asked for a reward for saving her. Manma was shocked by his request. He wanted her to introduce him to someone who needed help, especially someone struggling with business. In return, she was not allowed to ask questions. Manma looked troubled for a moment, but she agreed. Trust was important in her industry after all. She decided to introduce him to someone, but only once, since he had saved her. Rito quietly celebrated his success, but he could not understand why Manma still looked frustrated. The two soon went to the marketplace and stopped at a shop run by another cat girl. She was calling out to attract customers when she noticed Manma coming closer. She quickly assumed Manma had returned to steal her donuts again. Manma denied it. The cat girl then saw Rito standing behind her and wondered if he was a customer. Manma introduced him as her benefactor. This made the cat girl think Manma owed him money. She introduced herself as Mia, the top merchant in the Golden Path Merchant Guild. Rito greeted her politely and asked what kind of trouble she was facing. Mia thought he meant her debt. Manma explained that Mia had mentioned she was short on something. Mia suddenly remembered. Rito began to worry about the situation. Mia then explained that Gartland was facing a serious potion shortage. High potions, the top quality sold in shops, were completely unavailable. Rito wondered why there was a shortage when there was no war. He tried to learn the reason. Mia explained that the problem came from a lack of raw materials. Red berries, the main ingredient for potions, had been wiped out by droughts and storms. Because of this, members of the mercenary and explorer guilds, especially those who fought often, were struggling. Rito reached into his pocket and showed them a red fruit. He asked if it was the red berry she meant. Mia confirmed it right away and became excited. She wanted to know where he found them. Even Manma was impressed just seeing one. Rito had brought a few samples. If he used his magic, he could make more. Before doing anything, he asked about the market price of a high potion. Since none were available, Mia estimated the price at around 2 large coins. Rito felt shocked, but then remembered that gold coins were used for big purchases in this place. Mia explained that when the supply returned, the price would drop to 1 silver coin. That meant the price had risen about 40 times higher than normal. Rito saw this huge price increase as a chance to earn money. He asked if Mia could control the potion trade if she received a steady supply of red berries. Mia felt this would give her complete victory in the market and make her rich. Rito told them to wait while he stepped away for a moment. The two cat girls felt confused about what he was planning. He quietly slipped into a deserted alley and searched until he found the right spot. He remembered the Centennial War against the demons, which had ended 4 years earlier. After that war, monsters had almost stopped appearing. Because of this, high-paying subjugation quests had nearly disappeared. On top of that, Rito did not belong to any group. It was doubtful that he could even accept quests. Just like the realtor had said, joining a guild would probably be the fastest solution. Still, Rito had grown tired of dealing with people. He buried a red berry in the ground and used his magic to make it grow. This time, he believed he would finally gain true freedom. He planned to live on his own. Soon the empty alley was filled with red berry trees. He noticed how easily the ripe berries came off their branches. Using the branches, he made baskets and created simple storage. He also realized he would need a mage later to dry the berries. After finishing, Rito returned to Mia's shop. The cat girls were shocked when they saw the baskets filled with red berries. He explained that he could supply this amount regularly and asked if that would work for them. He also made it clear that he did not want to ruin the market price. The cat girls became uneasy and wondered if he was some young master from a suspicious group. Rito assured them that he was simply a decent person doing honest business. Mia still looked frightened and he could tell she did not fully trust him. He reassured her and told her not to worry. As he thought about it, powerful young masters did exist in this world. What he had done did look strange. Even he would have doubted someone who acted like that. He quietly wondered how he should handle the situation. Manma confirmed to Mia that Rito was fine and said he seemed like a good person. Rito felt surprised by that. Mia then asked how much he wanted. Rito showed her the number he had written for the down payment. He knew he could not back out because this was for the land and for his future. Mia took time to study the number and calculate everything. As she finished, she started drooling. She agreed to the deal. She believed that when a big chance appeared, even a cat had to become a tiger and roar. Rito wondered if that was even possible. Mia admitted she did not fully understand it either, but she believed it would still work for her. She then asked for his name. Rito suddenly realized he had never introduced himself. Yet the cat girls trusted him anyway. They judged him by what he did, not by his title or background. He remembered how people used to call him many different nicknames in the past. He gave a bitter smile before sharing his first name. He felt pleased to meet them. Mia also felt happy to meet him. They shook hands to seal the deal. Mia quickly left, excited to pay off her debt. Rito wondered if she was truly a good merchant. Nearby, Manma held her notebook and quietly watched him with a smirk. Rito then returned to the realtor's office and apologized for arriving during lunch break. The realtor appreciated the thought but felt tired of staying behind the reception desk all day like a machine. Rito understood how that felt and said he had come back with the money. He explained that he had earned more than he expected. He placed his original pouch on the table, then added the new ones he had just received. The realtor reacted with anger at first, saying that no amount of gold coins would be enough. Rito calmly said it would be enough. He opened the pouches and revealed a mithril coin. The realtor froze in shock. He could not believe that every leather pouch was filled with mithril coins. He became excited because these coins were extremely rare and made from valuable metal. They could be traded for nearly the same value in many countries. Even though he rarely saw them, 100 of them now sat right in front of him. Rito grew worried and covered his mouth, afraid they were drawing too much attention. The realtor leaned closer and whispered with excitement, saying that Rito had taken his first experience of seeing 100 mithril coins. Rito refused to accept that idea. The realtor apologized for his rude behavior and asked who Rito was. He guessed Rito might be a master mage or someone important. Rito said he was just unemployed. The realtor then asked for his name. Rito hesitated, knowing it might make him look suspicious, but he finally gave his full name. The realtor paused for a moment and then said he only needed it for the paperwork. Rito let out a small sigh. While filling out the papers, the realtor asked if Rito was sure about not joining a guild. Rito confirmed it. The realtor understood but thought it was a shame. He said he would finish the rest of the paperwork, and promised everything would be ready by sunset, asking Rito to come back then. Rito thanked him. By the end of it, the land in the middle of nowhere officially belonged to Rito. He held the land title in his hand and thought it was the best piece of land for him. Suddenly, the realtor suggested visiting the clothing guild store 2 doors down. He mentioned a flash sale starting in 30 seconds. Rito looked confused. The realtor suggested getting a new cloak, hinting that he understood Rito's reasons and gesturing to his own shoulders. Rito checked his back and noticed his cape still had the Imperial emblem. He realized that was why everyone knew he was from the Empire. The realtor seemed to ignore it, showing kindness. Rito felt grateful and promised to check out the store. Later that night, Rito went to the room he had rented. He took a bath and then sank into the bed. It had been a long journey and he finally had a real bed. His tiredness slowly disappeared. He was even surprised to find a shower. The day had been a success. He bought the perfect land, collected all the seeds and seedlings he needed, and even booked the cattle carriage for the next day. But now he was broke. Everyone had been kind to him since he arrived. Still, he could not join a guild. This time, he would be truly free. He would not make the same mistake again. When he turned 16 after becoming a hero and saving the Empire, he faced praise, flattery, jealousy, and temptation. The world had not changed at all from his previous life. Even though he had been reincarnated into another world, even though it was his second life, he could not handle everyone around him and finally reached his limit. He quit being a hero and became a court mage. Working at court, in other words as a civil servant, felt like a solid choice. Getting the job was easy because of his achievements as a hero. The people working there were the elite serving the Empire's highest institution. They might treat him like a normal colleague, but he had higher expectations. A few months passed, and people still said Rito had been hired through connections. No one knew what he thought, and they all found him strange. After all these years, Rito realized that being a court mage was also a tough and exploitative job. Much of the work had nothing to do with researching magic or plants. One day a colleague approached him and begged him to take on a task they believed only he could do. This led Rito to an archive that almost never opened. He was asked to clean the storage room. He was given a job that no one else wanted, and on top of that, it was overtime work. Surprisingly, he found it interesting. There were research notes left behind by ancient court mages. People had called them a pile of junk. Rito also found a book called The Legend of the World Tree. He was surprised this world had one too. A girl noticed him holding the book. As he flipped through the pages, Rito sensed something nearby. He saw a faint glow on top of a lone desk. He walked closer, drawn to it. He picked up a bottle containing a seed and could not take his eyes off it. Its color was silver with a soft blue light, and it took his breath away. He wondered what kind of seed it was. He had no idea since he had never seen it before. He felt excited to discover a new subject for research. Suddenly the door opened, and he was told not to move and to raise his hands. Rito felt confused. The same colleague from before accused him of poisoning the Duke's tea. Suspecting an attempted assassination, they arrested him. Rito stayed calm as he understood what was happening. In the end, he was taken away and sentenced to permanent exile from the Empire. People shouted insults at him even though he had once saved the world. They demanded the death penalty. It seemed Rito had been caught in a power struggle despite keeping a low profile, and he had been framed. He accepted the exile, and even felt a strange sense of celebration. At that moment, he realized that even with reincarnation, true freedom did not exist anywhere. For that reason, Rito decided he had to create his own freedom. A new morning came. Rito was prepared to leave. He looked in the mirror at his new clothes and wondered if they suited him. He rode the same slow carriage, and the carriage girl was shocked to hear he would live in that remote land. She described the place as like an island on land. Rito grew worried because the land he bought had many ominous names. He explained that was what made it good. It was flat, had a water source, and was a decent wasteland. Most importantly, it was far from human settlements. For him, it was the perfect place. The carriage girl stayed quiet but wondered if there really was water there. Rito told her not to worry. He accepted the land as it was and had no plans to return to the city. The carriage girl thought he sounded lonely but promised she would come if he ever needed help. If he wanted to return, she asked him to call her. Rito felt touched and thanked her. Both before and after he reincarnated, he had always been dreaming. But now, just dreaming was over. First he would grow plants to his heart's content. Beautiful flowers, strange flowers, tasty vegetables, and juicy fruits. He wanted to create unusual flowers too. He planned to wake up in the morning and sleep at night. His meals would be self-made. He wanted to live peacefully and happily. He just wanted to stay alive, that was all. Soon after, his journey ended, and he arrived at the place he had bought. He stared in silence. He could no longer see the city. As far as he could see, it was only his world, his own life. Before his eyes stretched freedom that seemed endless, he felt it was the best. He held the capped seed once more and wondered what kind of flower it would grow. He looked forward to it. This time he would enjoy his slow life for sure. A week later, Mia celebrated having complete control over high potions. She suggested eating something tasty later, but Manma refused. Mia wondered if she had other plans. Manma said she was busy. After all, it was the first edition after a long time, and the topic was about the master mage from the capital. She had to start working on the article immediately. Mia told her to enjoy work. As the top reporter of the Wings of the Pen Information Guild, Manma promised to track down the new star. She hoped Rito could wait for her. The next day, sunlight appeared beyond the mountain range. A single tent stood alone in the middle of the land. Inside, Rito trembled under his blanket, wondering why it felt so cold. When he opened his eyes, he saw a girl above him, staring with icy eyes. Her gaze made the cold feel stronger. Nervously, Rito greeted Navi, his artificial spirit. He asked for a little more time, but Navi insisted he wake up. He then smiled and asked how she had been, which surprised her. She could not believe he was taking things so lightly. Since there had been no startup request for a long time, she had appeared in emergency mode. Her first concern was to know where they were. Rito got up and explained that they were on land he had bought, about a 10-day carriage ride from Gartland. Navi remembered that Gartland was a city on the southern continent. She tried to ask what had happened, but Rito hesitated to share. Artificial spirits were born from the Empire's ancient magic. They were once called semi-autonomous magical life forms. But Navi was different. She was fully autonomous and moved by her own will. On top of that, she was very nagging. Navi asked if all that sleep had rotted his brain. She pinned him down and wanted an answer to her first question. She asked again what had happened. Rito said nothing had happened and that he had only been pacing and moving house. She stayed quiet for a moment and reminded him that she was an artificial spirit he had created, a doll that followed her master's orders without question. He reminded her that she had her own will. She said it did not matter. Even if she had a will, she was just a tool. At first, she said, it was strange that a master gave a tool a pseudo-personality. He felt embarrassed. She then said she understood his desire to live alone without relying much on others or magic, but tools like her would get lonely if they were not used. He could not really call her a tool. She pointed out that this was why he had been sleeping in a drafty tent. He cried and told her to stop, saying he had really worked hard on it. He promised he would rely on her if anything happened. After a few seconds of silence, he disappeared. She said she would be waiting while entering sleep mode. He wished her good night. Still, he could not really call her a tool. Rito came out of his tent still feeling cold. His main goal was to find a place to live, which also meant finding a water source first. The area was mostly wasteland, but the mountains to the east had plenty of trees. He guessed there might be a spring nearby. Holding a compass, he decided to head there. He began his journey to find a new home. He wanted to improve the soil with plant magic, but he did not want to rely on his cheat for everything. He wanted a life like in Harvest Moon or Minecraft. Magic seeds were limited, so he would live mostly by his own strength. It had also been a long time since he had traveled on foot. A few hours later, Rito was breathing hard and covered in sweat. He had not expected it to be so difficult. The mountain range was right in front of him, but he did not seem to get any closer. He had promised himself not to use magic and to rely on his own strength. Finally, he reached his limit. He used his plant magic to create a wooden cart and wooden rails. Even in his past life as a hardcore gamer, he had never spent this much time traveling across maps. He rode the cart forward, feeling the wind rush past him. The ride felt like a roller coaster, and he enjoyed it. He realized he could build a train and open a train line in this world. Excited, he wanted to go as fast as possible, but it was time to slow down. When he pulled the lever, it broke. Panic rose in him. He was on a downhill slope and was picking up speed. He tried to think of what to do next, and noticed the rails ended at a boulder. At this rate, he would crash. He knew the crash could kill him. He had no choice but to summon Navi. The spirit mapped the area, and found a landing spot 200 meters to the north-northwest. Navi confirmed that he would hit the boulder in seconds. There was no time to make more rails, so he worked with the ones he had. He made the ends of the wooden rails bigger and stronger. They grew upward, launching him into the air. He landed on a field of flowers. Relief and joy came over him. The flowers had softened the landing. Navi confirmed he was safe and he thanked her for saving him. She said no thanks were needed since she was his tool. He could not believe he was hearing that again. The first voice he had heard after reincarnating in this world had been Navi. She had been a simple system message, just like on those games, welcoming him to Harmonia. He had used ancient magic from underground ruins to give that voice a body. That was how Navi, the artificial spirit, was created. In a way, he had turned her into a tool, even though he had wanted her to be his partner. He decided it was finally time to tell her everything that had happened so far. After learning the truth, Navi asked why he had not told her sooner. Rito thought she would spend 3 months cursing the people who had exiled him. She said she would curse them for 12 months. He found her frightening. He also did not want to make her listen to such a small story. She then realized he had truly left everything behind. Still, she wanted to know if he felt lonely. He was surprised by the question. He stayed quiet for a moment and then smiled. He said he did not feel lonely at all, now that he was finally free. He watched a shooting star with a smile. Navi still looked worried. She said she understood the situation and went into sleep mode, shutting down. Rito wished her good night. He knew she was definitely angry. To avoid problems like this, he wanted to at least build a house before contacting her again. The day ended, and it would be another night of tent camping. He promised himself he would do better tomorrow. Navi's voice then echoed, saying she forgot to tell him something. She confirmed that 93% of his belongings were in pieces. Then she was gone. Rito screamed in disbelief. His tent was destroyed. He asked Navi to find a nearby place to stay, but she did not answer. Unbeknownst to him, someone was watching from a nearby boulder. Rito checked his belongings and saw that everything was ruined. Only a blanket, a staff, and the important seeds had survived. He understood how serious his situation was. Still, he decided to keep going and finish setting things up. He raised his staff and called for the plants to grow big and strong. Trees rose from the ground and changed shape. Apple trees appeared nearby. Within moments, a house stood before him with lampposts around it. This would be his home from that day on. He knew that water was one of the basic needs for living. He shaped a tree into a faucet, but only a few drops came out. Even the underground water was scarce. He realized the land was truly dry. He had traveled far, yet he had not found a single river. Navi's map only showed wasteland in every direction. He began to question the land he had bought. He had asked for flat ground, open space, and a water source. Now he wondered if the realtor had made a mistake. For now, the small amount of water he collected was clean. It took time to gather, but it was safe to drink. It would also be enough to grow the seeds. He felt relieved that the mysterious seed he brought from the palace archives was still safe. Before his exile, he had taken it, knowing it was valuable. He believed it was a tree seed, so he planned to grow it in a pot until it became a sapling. He used his plant magic to form a pot. He placed soil inside and made a small hole in the center. Feeling excited, he took the mysterious seed from its capsule and planted it carefully. He wondered what would grow from it. The thought filled him with hope. For now, he lightly moistened the soil. He would water it properly in the morning. It was still early, but after eating an apple for dinner, he felt ready to rest. As he walked into his house, someone stepped into his field. The next morning, Rito felt confused when he saw a plant tied to a wooden stick. He knew he had not planted it. It looked like a strange type of grass, maybe a berry plant. As he studied it, he felt someone nearby. He wondered why a person would be in a place like this. Then he saw a hand sticking out from behind a boulder. It was covered in dirt. Rito panicked. He thought it might be a ghost. He had always been scared of things like that. He forced himself to calm down. He reminded himself that this was his land and he had to protect it. He walked toward the boulder to face whoever was there. Behind it, he found a little girl. She was shaking and crying in fear. Rito was shocked. When he looked closer, he noticed flowers growing from her hair. They were not ornaments. They were real flowers. He called Navi and asked her to wake up. He needed her to check the girl. Navi activated and followed his request. She examined the girl and reported that she looked about 14 years old in human terms. Her race was flowerkin. Other details were left out because they were considered private. Rito had only read about flowerkin in books and heard rumors about them. He had never seen one before. He felt excited without meaning to. The girl became more frightened, and Navi told him that her caution level had risen. She pointed out that he was overwhelming the child. Flowerkin were said to live close to nature. They were known for taking care of plants better than anyone else. Rito could not believe one was standing right in front of him. He had many questions in his mind. He wanted to know her name. He wanted to know if others like her were nearby. He wanted to know why she planted something in his field without asking. But first he chose to check if she was safe and if she was in trouble. Navi explained that most people believed flowerkin could not understand human language. Rito noticed the girl was holding a springberry. It was sick. He realized that was why she planted it in his field. She must have been trying to save it. He asked again for her name. The girl repeated the word name. Rito placed his hand on his chest and said his own name slowly so she could understand. Navi told him it would not work. Then the girl began to speak. Small sounds came out at first. The flower in her hair bloomed a bit. She said her name was Frau. Rito felt relieved. He told her it was nice to meet her. He explained that he was a mage who focused on plants. He proudly told Navi that the flowerkin girl understood simple words. Navi asked if he planned to help the flowerkin child. Rito said she was not a threat to his goals. He believed he could fix the sick seedling. He promised that he would make it healthy again. Rito planted the wilted springberry in his field. He explained that the small plant had suffered from lack of water and iron. He sprinkled iron powder on the soil and gave it water. After that, he used his skill called plant healing. He focused and helped the plant recover using its own strength. The springberry's dry leaves slowly regained life. They became fresh and firm again. Frau watched in amazement. Rito had only supported the plant's natural healing ability. Then he noticed something else. The flower on Frau's head had fully bloomed. It looked beautiful and caught his attention. He wondered if it bloomed when she felt happy. It was a flower he had never seen before. Frau thanked him while stuttering. Rito felt surprised. She thanked him again, this time louder. Seeing him stand still, Navi asked if something was wrong. Rito said there was no plant problem he could not handle. He proudly showed the healed springberry. Frau leaned closer to him and kept thanking him. When he saw her rough and dirty hands, he realized something. He thought she must have been cornered. She had taken a big risk by asking a human to help plant a sick springberry. She must have searched for soil with even a little nutrition in that dry land for a long time. Navi then said that Frau's fondness for Rito had increased. Annoyed, Rito ordered her to hibernate. As she vanished, Vani reminded him of his goal. She was right. His goal was to live a fun life alone. Getting involved with others was not part of his plan. Frau was still a stranger. Even so, he felt her body tremble as she held on to him. He remembered that springberries had pink fruit and tasted like raspberries. Like other berries, they were used to make potions. Their healing effect on humans was weak and they only made sour juice. But that was when they were used on people. A springberry was meant to heal other plants. Rito gently hugged Frau. He wondered if she had been trying to save a sick flowerkin. Frau reacted in a way that showed he was right. The village of the flowerkin was hidden deep in the eastern mountains. The people there looked both sick and afraid. Their faces showed worry and their bodies looked weak. Rito went to Frau's house to learn more. He found out that the flowerkin had been drinking medicine made from springberry fruits for a long time. When he asked about it, Frau did not understand at first. So Rito explained his question slowly, using simple words. After that, she confirmed it. The water from the springberries worked like a potion. It healed plants, and it likely helped the villagers fight off sickness caused by their harsh environment. But the harvest had been poor since the year before last. The strong berries stopped growing well. Now even the seedlings withered as soon as they were planted. Frau confirmed that all of them had dried up and died. Without the springberry medicine, the flowerkin grew weaker. The elderly and children were the first to suffer. Soon people started dying. Frau could not stop it. She was the daughter of the village chief, and she had been running around trying her best to save everyone. Rito realized the situation was worse than he first thought. From what he learned, it almost never rained in that area. The mountains were full of plants, so groundwater likely flowed beneath the land. But the flowerkin had no way to bring it up. The soil also lacked iron and water. The biggest problem was the lack of water. Rito suggested planting the springberries in his own field instead. His land had groundwater and it was already sloped in a way that could help with irrigation. But Navi stopped him and asked him to think carefully. She questioned whether he planned to save this village too. Rito said yes. Navi warned him that his own land could wither. Even someone like him would struggle without water. She reminded him of his dream to live freely and alone. Helping the village could pull him away from that goal. She said he was about to repeat the same mistake he had made before, both in his past life and now. Rito believed he could handle it. He said he would manage things on his own. Navi did not reply after that and disappeared. For now, Rito planned to expand the underground waterways. He would make them wider and increase the amount of water he could pump up. After that, he would add iron to the soil. With his growth acceleration ability, he believed he could make the plants grow strong and healthy. He told Frau that the springberries would grow well in his field. She still wondered if he was certain. Even with magic, he did not have enough bentry grass seeds. Watering a large area and healing the land would also need many hands. He had to return to Gartland as soon as possible and gather help. He knew it would not be easy. At that moment, Frau stood outside the house. Rito watched her through the window. He saw her speak to the other flowerkin. She bowed to them and asked for their help. Soon all the flowerkin who were still healthy and able to move gathered together. Rito knew he was an outsider. He was not even the same race as them. Even so, the flowerkin trusted him. They gathered their strength for him. They were willing to work because they believed in him. Seeing that, Rito promised himself that he would grow the springberries well. Springberries had meanings in flower language. They stood for boredom, failure, and other negative ideas. Even with those meanings, Rito and the flowerkin worked hard in the fields. They prepared the land and planted the berries. When night came, Rito told them it was already late and time to rest. But Frau and the others kept working even after the sun went down. They refused to give up on their homeland. Even if the land became empty, they would continue living there. After the field was ready and the seeds were planted, Rito used his plant magic. The plants quickly grew large and strong. The field soon filled with springberries. Frau looked at the sight and began to cry. That night they held a celebration. The Flowerkin thanked Rito and treated him as the guest of honor. They placed a crown on his head. The young Flowerkin girls gathered around him. He felt uneasy because it made him look suspicious. The thanks did not stop. He never thought things would turn out this way. Everyone had worked for 3 days and 3 nights without sleep. Together they brought the spring berries back to life. They made juice from the harvested fruit and shared it with the sick Flowerkin. Because of that, the sick finally recovered. Even after staying awake for so long, everyone still looked full of energy. Later, Frau sat beside Rito. He was caught off guard when she suddenly sat so close to him. He gently asked her not to sit too near. Frau showed a look of displeasure. Rito found her expression cute. Then Navi appeared and scolded him for acting overly soft and overly concerned. Rito felt confused and asked what she meant. Navi began looking for information about people who pretended to care too much. After that, she became serious. She asked him why he saved the Flowerkin. Rito admitted that he was simply interested in their race. Since he liked plants, it felt natural to him. Navi looked at him as if she did not fully believe his answer. Suddenly, Frau stood up when she noticed a familiar shape in the distance. The other Flowerkin stopped moving as well. Frau's eyes filled with tears. She ran forward and wrapped her arms around the woman. The woman smiled like a caring mother and held her crying child close. Rito looked at the woman and thought she was beautiful. He wondered if she had recovered from the disease. When he saw how Frau and the others held on to her, he understood. She was the chief of the Flowerkin settlement. She was Frau's mother. Navi agreed because the woman looked like Frau. Navi then turned and saw her master crying. Rito felt glad. He was happy that he had helped them. Navi grew quiet. Her face showed a hint of sadness. In the beginning, she was only a voice. Only Rito could hear her. She existed for him alone. One morning, a young Rito talked to her about his breakfast. He shared how good it tasted. The voice asked what he had eaten. He excitedly told her it was rolled omelets. They talked about it for hours. After that day, they spoke often about simple things. They talked during bad weather. They talked while training. They even talked about dangerous adventurers. After some time, Rito started to think about her situation. She had no body. She was only a voice. He imagined that she might feel trapped. She told him she was content just listening to his stories. Later on, she gained a woman's body. Rito felt sorry. He explained that he only wanted to give her a body. He never meant to turn her into a tool. Navi still remembered those days. She thought her master had always been kind. He had not changed over the years. Rito disagreed. He believed he was only soft-hearted. Navi felt that he was being too harsh on himself. Rito asked what she meant. Navi admitted that she had once disagreed with helping the Flowerkin. Now she believed she had been wrong. She congratulated him. She pointed out that he had never received this much thanks before. That was what she had observed. Rito was surprised. He looked around him. The Flowerkin enjoyed the night. They looked healthy. Many were reunited with family. Frau and her mother cried as they held each other. Rito felt warmth in his chest. He admitted that Navi might be right. Still, Navi reminded him that he often carried every burden alone. She wanted him to rely on her too. She wished for him to walk his own path and enjoy life fully this time. Rito felt shocked. Navi usually showed little emotion. At that moment, he thought he saw a faint smile on her face. He told her she was being honest today. Navi lowered her head. She felt that he was too much in many ways. When he saw her blush, Rito realized she could feel shy as well. She looked at him sharply. Rito laughed and apologized for teasing her. Rito wanted to live a quiet life on that land. He did not want to depend on anyone. He planned to stay alone and avoid getting close to others. But the people he met after coming to Gartland felt different from those in his past. They did not treat him with fear or distance. Frau stood out the most. She pulled him into their celebration without hesitation. In his previous life, drinking parties had always tired him. He was not comfortable with loud group energy like in sports clubs. Being too close to people made him uneasy. Still, this time felt different. Celebrating with the Flowerkin did not feel bad. It felt warm and simple. Frau held a thick book in her arms. Her mother stood behind her with a proud look. Frau asked for Rito's name again. He replied that his name was Rito. Frau shook her head and her mother smiled and nodded. Rito then realized he had been rude. He had only given his first name, so he told them his full name, Rito Ricardo. When Frau heard it, she started calling him Lord. She explained that the ones working in the fields were them, the Flowerkin. Rito asked her not to call him that, but then he understood something more important. Frau was asking if they could continue working on his fields. At that same time in Gartland, an article was published and spread across town. It was written by the cat girl Manma. Mia read the article. It talked about a mysterious mage, but she knew it was about Ryoto. Manma told her not to say it out loud. A woman walked by and picked up a copy. She read that the mage could control plants. A satisfied look appeared on her face. She had finally found Lord Ryoto. She crushed the paper in excitement. She declared that Shia Deko would bring Lord Ryoto back to the imperial capital. Ryoto had quit being a hero and a court mage. He left everything behind and moved to a remote wasteland. He wanted a slow and quiet life where he could live at his own pace. But things did not turn out the way he planned. In his fields, the flower folk were already hard at work. They moved around the crops with care and focus. Rito wondered how his peaceful life had turned into this. Navi blamed him. She said he could never say no. Rito knew she was right. After seeing Frau's strong resolve, he felt he could not refuse her request. Still, there were good surprises. The harvest was better than he expected. They gathered 50 baskets of red berries for his business. They also prepared 50 baskets of spring berries for the flower folk's usual medicine. The flower folk truly loved plants. They even chose to take care of the fields on their own. Frau noticed Rito watching them. She waved at him. Rito waved back with a smile. Navi stared at him and said she was starting to understand his preferences. She warned him that it might cause him trouble one day. Rito did not understand what she meant. Then Navi sensed something. She warned him that intruders had entered the territory. A reptile rushed toward them. Navi grew tense, but Rito stayed calm. He said it was fine because they were his guests. Navi asked if they were friends. The flower folk looked worried. Rito explained that he owed those people from before. Soon a carriage pulled by lizard-like monsters came into view. Manma and Mia were riding on it. They called out to Rito with excitement. When they saw the baskets of red berries, they were shocked. Rito told them it was all thanks to the flower folk who lived nearby. Manma quickly began writing in her notebook. Mia did not fully understand the details, but she sensed a business chance. She asked Rito to sign an exclusive contract with her guild. She wanted it to stay between the two of them. Rito thought about it. With an exclusive deal, he would not need to search for buyers. It would also help keep his home hidden from others. He had even planned to ask for such a deal himself, so he felt thankful that Mia suggested it first. Still, it felt too easy. He told Mia that he had one condition. He wanted her to buy certain items from him first. If she agreed, then he would accept the contract. Mia agreed right away. Rito felt surprised because she had not even heard what the items were. Mia said it was fine. Her years of experience told her it would work out. Manma pointed out that Mia's habit of making quick promises had not changed. Rito then told Mia to decide after she had seen the items. He tried to retrieve the items, but Manma apologized as she stepped in and stopped him. She asked him to do that later because she wanted her turn to work first. Rito felt confused. He asked if they were not part of the same guild. Mia confirmed that they were. Manma then apologized for not introducing herself earlier. She proudly explained that she was a newspaper reporter. She was the top reporter of the information guild called Quill's Wing. Rito caught the article she tossed at him. She said she had written a proper report about his heroic actions from before, so he should feel grateful. Rito froze when he read the headline. Manma explained that she only told the public how the heroic Rito had saved her from villains. She said she did not mean any harm. For her sake as a heroine, she asked for his cooperation. Mia added that Quill's Wing was a major guild. With their help, Rito could become famous not only in Gartland but across the entire southern continent. Rito strongly refused the idea. If that happened, his dreams would end right there. He quickly asked Navi for help, but she refused. She explained that she had been in a shutdown state the whole time and knew nothing about what had happened in Gartland. Rito realized he had completely forgotten about that. Manma then leaned closer and teased him with her fluffy tail. She pushed him down to the ground and began to purr. She said it would be best for him to tell her everything about himself. Rito felt trapped. He could not resist the soft tail brushing against him. Manma kept teasing him and then asked who he really was. He almost revealed the truth. At that moment, Frau appeared with a cold look on her face. She called out to Rito in a sharp tone and asked if those people were his friends. Rito felt relieved that she had come. Manma and Mia were not truly his friends. They were more like business partners. Frau concluded they were friends and suggested holding a welcoming party. The flower folk quickly brought out drinks and food. The cat girls sniffed the air and immediately recognized their favorite drink. Rito realized it was Matatabi wine. He had not expected the flower folk to make something like that. Frau explained that it was something cats loved. It was likely alcohol with effects similar to Matatabi wine. She said the recipe had been passed down in their clan for many generations. Rito still felt surprised that the flower folk enjoyed parties. However, the lively mood helped him relax. He thanked Frau. Because of her, he was able to calm down. He then decided to talk with the cat girls for a while. Frau asked if it would be a fun talk. Rito made it clear that it would be serious. It was an important business discussion. Rito joined the cat girls and drank a mug of wine with them. The two were surprised by how much he could drink. Rito said they had come all the way to meet him, so he decided he should enjoy the moment. He then asked them how they liked the drink. The cat girls said it tasted very good. Rito felt pleased and told them to drink more. The cat girls laughed and looked happy as they kept drinking. Rito felt relieved that everything was going well. He never expected that he would use the entertaining skills he learned in his past life. He then asked if they knew who made the drink. Manma quickly said it was Rito. Rito corrected her and said it was made by the flower folk. He explained that their skills were impressive. Besides the wine, they could also make springberry liquor and juice. The cat girls were shocked that such skilled people lived in a place like that. When Rito saw that they were getting drunk, he felt it was almost time to move forward. He tried to bring up the interview. Manma held onto him and told him to reveal everything. Rito asked her not to cling to him like that. He then spoke in a serious way and said he could not share personal details about himself. He did not want others to know he was staying in the area. Instead, he said he had better information to offer. Manma looked at him with doubt. Rito then suggested possible headlines. He mentioned famous liquor brewed in a hidden region. He brought up the mysterious flower folk. He also mentioned a secret treasure. He thought those ideas would make a strong headline. Manma agreed that learning about the flower folk was surprising. Still, she felt the idea was too simple. She wanted the headline to focus on a mysterious mage saving the flower folk in a dying land. She thought that sounded more exciting. Rito felt surprised. Even while drunk, Manma still thought like a professional. Even so, he knew he could not give up on his own dream. He then explained that Mia would sell the liquor and crops in town. Manma remembered that this was part of the contract they talked about earlier. Rito pointed out that the products had strong flavors. He believed they would become popular and sell well. He said that if that happened, people would start to wonder who made such good food and drinks. Manma understood what he meant. She guessed that he wanted her to spread news about this place. Rito clarified that he wanted her to keep the details unclear. He wanted her to reveal small hints over time so no one could trace it back easily. Manma said that rumors without proof would not sell well. Rito answered that this might be true for an average reporter. However, he believed she was different. He saw how she stayed brave even when facing troublemakers. She had also traveled all the way to this remote place just to chase a story. He trusted that she could write rumors that felt real. He believed her articles, combined with Mia's products, would create more interest. One rumor would lead to another. The talk would spread among the people. Customers would drink the liquor from Mia's shop while waiting for Manma's next article. As they enjoyed the taste, they would start thinking about where it all came from. He wanted people to imagine the source. He wanted them to wish to visit it. They would picture themselves surrounded by good food and drink. They would forget about time. They would imagine singing and dancing with the flower folk. They would think about living in peace. In the end, he hoped the place would become known as a paradise, like Shangri-La. Manma then realized that he wanted to keep the full story unclear on purpose and turn it into a legend. Rito said that if they did that, all their brands would rise in value without limit. Because of this, he wanted to make a deal with Manma. He wanted her to sign an exclusive contract with him. Manma felt shocked because it reminded her of Mia's contract. Rito wanted her to share the life they had in the borderlands with people outside. He believed it would inspire others and spread their name far and wide. Manma agreed that if it worked, it could earn a large amount of money. Still, writing that kind of article was not her strong point. Mia suddenly hugged her in excitement. She believed they were about to take over the world. Rito felt glad to see Mia helping. Manma began to think it through. She could tell Rito wanted to push a little more. He chose to show his true feelings. He begged her while holding her small hands tightly. Manma finally reached her limit and made her choice. She raised her quill high and accepted the exclusive contract with Rito. She, the ace reporter of Quill's Wing, decided she would handle it herself. Mia celebrated as the three of them formed a secret agreement. Manma and Rito wished each other success in their work. Mia felt excited at the thought of becoming rich and escaping poverty. Manma could not believe Mia still cared so much about money. They started drinking again. Frau looked happy for them. Navi looked upset because Rito did not call on her from the start to help him. For now, Rito managed to protect the peace of himself and his land. On top of that, he gained companions he could rely on. A month later, the cat girls returned to Rito with news about what had happened. They shared how much things had changed. Mia said their products had been selling fast, and she had been earning a lot of money. Manma looked tired. She had spent many days acting clueless in front of customers who kept asking about the flower folks. It had worn her out. Even so, she agreed with Mia. Working with Rito had ended their days of having no customers and no income. Rito felt proud of them. He saw their success as a win in the economic battle they had faced. They were slowly building their wealth, and that made him happy. He also felt relieved that they had kept his identity a secret. For Rito, this had been an important step. He had secured enough money to support his land. The base he needed was now stable. Navi congratulated her master. She suggested they do something together. Rito agreed. Since everyone was there, he decided they would celebrate. He planned to have a barbecue. When Frau heard that, she began to wonder what barbecue meant. Grills were brought out and placed in the yard. Manma was already drinking wine. Mia told her to share some. Frau helped set up the table and arranged everything they needed. Rito carried out a large piece of meat. Drool ran from his mouth as he stared at it. He had bought it straight from the butcher. An ice mage kept it cold during the trip through help from the transport guild called Rat's Formation. Because of that, the meat stayed fresh the whole way. Rito had also bought a deluxe barbecue set from Mia. He prepared homemade herb salt ahead of time. He made skewers from Benri grass and strengthened them with fire resistance magic. Once everything was ready, he sliced the meat into pieces. He placed them on the skewers and rubbed them with his herb salt. Then he grilled them with care. He set aside some meat without onion and garlic for Mia and Manma. The cat girls were shocked that he knew about their race's hidden weakness. Rito had not known it was a secret. He thought it was normal to prepare food that way. He also handed vegetable skewers to Frau and the flower folk. As always, he apologized to Navi because she could not eat with them. Navi said it was fine and told him not to worry. When everyone had their skewers, Rito told them to eat together. He took a bite of his meat. Suddenly, he covered his mouth. His body shook. Navi panicked at once. The cat girls quickly asked what was wrong. They feared the meat was spoiled or poisoned. After a moment, Rito lowered his hand. He said the meat tasted amazing. It was so good that it shocked him. Frau had already started crying, thinking something terrible had happened. The cat girls blamed Rito for scaring her. Navi told him he went too far with his reaction. Rito felt bad. He apologized and promised he would not react like that again. He also asked Frau to stop crying and told everyone the food was safe and delicious. After the banquet ended, the cat girls went to him with a request. They asked him, as the lord of the land, to give their home a name. It felt strange to live in a place that had no name. They needed something they could call it. Frau became excited and urged him to choose a name. Only then did he realize he had never thought about it before. Navi felt worried. She knew her master did not always choose good names. He wondered if naming it after the Benri grass would work. He thought about calling it Benri. Manma pushed him to decide already. Mia, Frau and Navi all looked at him, waiting for his answer. He looked around at the land they had built together. He remembered a girl from his past. Then he said the name Tugin. Frau smiled when she heard it. Mia and Manma said it sounded cool. Navi understood that it came from his home country and agreed it was not a bad choice. He felt relieved that they liked it. He never thought he would live like this. He was in a faraway wasteland, away from people and his old life. He grew plants with his own hands. He spent midday cooking barbecue. He lived together with many others. It was very different from the life he once imagined. From that day on, their land was called Tugin Village. 100 years ago, underground ruins appeared in the northern continent of the Romancian Empire. Soon after, many monsters rushed out from those ruins. The number of monsters kept growing and the empire was pushed into war. To stop the invasion, the southern continent built a huge wall across the narrow strip of land that connected it to the north. After the great monster outbreak, the only land bridge between the two continents was sealed and tightly controlled. Because of that, there were almost no monsters in the south. Yet somehow, a monster appeared in Ryoto's territory. It was a giant tiger monster. Navi noticed that something did not match what they had always believed. The north and south had been cut off for a long time. There should not have been any monsters in the southern continent. Ryoto realized that he might have trusted the Empire's information too easily. He asked Navi for the monster's number and rank. Navi confirmed it was number 1. It was at the intermediate rank, but it seemed close to advanced rank. The strength needed to fight a monster depended on how dangerous it was. Lower-class monsters could be handled by regular soldiers. Intermediate-class monsters needed a mage. Advanced-class monsters required a large force, including a group of mages. Navi asked if they should retreat. Rito refused. As he held a seed in his hand, he remembered how he used to fight special-class monsters alone back in the Empire. He wanted to end this quickly. But first, everyone had to be evacuated. The people who had fallen asleep after the banquet suddenly woke up. The cat girls saw the giant tiger and froze in shock. Their cries filled the air. The tiger took that as a signal to attack. Rito already knew it would move. The tiger let out a loud roar. Rito told Navi to evacuate the others. He did not want to scatter the seed onto the cultivated land, but there was no other choice. He released the seed. Combat specialized Benri grass burst out of the ground. It grew fast and shot upward with force. The sharp blades pierced through the tiger's body. However, at that moment, Frau told him to wait. The Benri grass almost stopped right before they could turn the tiger into a kebab. Rito felt confused. Frau then told everyone to move. Her mother gave the signal. The flower folk rushed toward the tiger. The monster tried to attack, but they dodged and struck back with good timing. Rito was shocked. He did not expect them to move with such teamwork. Then the flower folk drank something and spat it out at the tiger at the same time. The tiger began to wobble and drool. It tried to step forward, but it fell to the ground. Rito soon realized they had used Matatabi wine. They made the tiger drunk and defeated it without killing it. In the end, it was still a cat. He was surprised at how easily they stopped the monster. Navi suggested getting rid of it while they had the chance. Rito agreed. The Imperial way was the safest. If they left it alone, it might attack again. In the Empire, the basic rule for monsters was elimination. Before Rito could act, the flower folk lifted the large tiger. He wondered why they were taking it back to the eastern mountains after it had just attacked them. Frau explained that they were protecting their fields. The tiger usually chased away animals that ate their berries and crops. They gave it alcohol as thanks. Today it likely attacked because it smelled the meat. At that moment, Rito understood something. Coexistence was an option. He quietly watched as they carried the sleeping tiger away. Navi asked what was wrong. Rito said that the only answer he knew was elimination. because the monster tried to invade. He only understood how to stand alone. Navi reminded him that the village now depended on him as their chief. Hearing that, his expression softened. He agreed. Rito ran to help carry the tiger. He asked the others to help too. Manma hesitated, but Mia pushed her forward. Frau raised her hand and joined them. They had protected the village. It was time to celebrate again with drinks. Later in his room, Rito thought about who would handle each task. Navi would do the accounting. Frau and the flower people would take care of the farm work. Mia and her guild Golden Path would handle the shipment and selling of goods. Manma and her guild Quillswing would manage information. He reminded himself that he was the village chief. His main duty was to protect the village. The most urgent problem was securing water. For now, they used underground water. But he wondered how long it would last. The crops they could grow were limited to those that needed little water, and they could not grow food in large amounts. Next was making delicious meals. Frau and the others cooked well, but their dishes relied heavily on the natural flavor of the ingredients. He did not feel confident in developing seasonings or improving cooking skills. Suddenly, he noticed something in the pot on his window. The mysterious seed had sprouted. He realized it was a monocotyledone. A soft light glowed from it, changing from blue to purple, then from red to orange. The colors shifted beautifully. Even seeing the magical glow, he still did not know what kind of plant it was. He touched the sprout and felt excited by how small and cute it looked. He looked forward to watching it grow. Navi watched him with a strange expression and called him creepy. The next morning, Frau woke up feeling excited. She greeted everyone and went to eat breakfast with her mother. After that, she got ready to go out. Her hair did not look good that day, but it was time to do field work. She would take care of the fields with Rito and the others. Seeing the healthy fruits made her happy. The others rested or made liquor and juice. Stomping on the berries felt fun, almost like dancing. Then came lunch. She made soup with turnips. It tasted especially good after a hard morning of work. After lunch, the flowerkin took a nap under the warm sun. It felt nice and gave them energy. Watching them, Ryoto guessed they were probably photosynthesizing. Navi reminded him not to get too excited. Hearing this made Frau curious. There were still many words she did not understand. At times like this, she needed to open her book. Ryoto looked at her book and realized it was a human dictionary. Frau said it was very important to her. Ryoto finally understood how Frau could read and understand human language, but he wondered where she got such a book. Frau said a kind person had given it to her a long time ago. Rito wondered what kind of person would visit such a remote place. Suddenly his face went pale. The book had his teacher's signature. His stomach tightened as he remembered the harsh days with his master. Navi watched him, sensing his pain. Frau asked him worriedly if he was okay. Rito thanked her and said he had just remembered something difficult. He expected this from his teacher. Not only did his teacher visit the flower village, but he also taught them human language. He found his teacher unpredictable. Yet talking to Frau, he also felt thankful for him. Frau thought for a moment. Before, life had been hard, scary, and sad, but now everyone was healthy and laughing, and Rito and his friends were there too. She said she was having a lot of fun now. Mia arrived by carriage. Rito said it had been a long time. He did not realize they were visiting that day. He asked where Manma was. Mia said Manma had not shown up on time, so they had left her behind. Rito found that strange. He thought she might have stayed up all night and overslept. He guessed she was taking the day off this time. At the same time, Manma seemed to be in a hurry. She kept apologizing to Rito, even though he was not nearby. She was not riding anything but was being carried by someone. It was the same girl from before who had been looking for Rito. She set her destination for Tugan village. Meanwhile, Rito and Mia planned how to improve their sales. Rito suggested putting illustrations on the berry wine bottles. Each flavor would have its own design. Mia thought that idea was smart because it would make their products stand out. She said she would talk to an artist from the art guild. Rito asked her to move forward with it. He felt it would be fun to use classic packaging ideas. At that moment, Navi apologized for bringing bad news. She reported that another intruder was coming. The person was moving toward them at high speed. Rito and Mia were shocked that someone else had appeared. Navi told them not to look at her as if it was her fault. She explained that the visitor was someone her master knew. Rito wondered who it could be. He felt tired of people showing up without warning. He looked ahead and his eyes widened. The visitor stopped, and a girl climbed down from a large lizard. Rito saw the imperial crest on her cape. He asked why someone from the Empire was here. Then he realized who she was. He was shocked to see Adel. He called her Your Highness without thinking. He also noticed Manma following behind her in silence. When Adel saw Rito, her face brightened. She ran toward him and hugged him. The hug was so strong that his bones made a loud cracking sound. Adel quickly apologized. Mia asked who the woman was. Manma began to cry and said she did not know anything. She apologized to Rito and claimed the imperial lady would not let her leave until she shared what she knew. Adel explained that she was not bullying Manma. She said she only heard that Manma had ties to an information guild. Rito let out a tired sigh. He then introduced her to everyone. She was Adelia La Romancia, the 6th princess of the Romancia Empire and the honorary captain of the 15th Imperial Knights. She was 19 years old. Adil asked Rito to call her Adil like he used to. Rito said it had been a long time. Mia whispered that the princess felt scary. Manma agreed that she was terrifying. Adil could not believe Rito was living in such a remote place. She said it was difficult to track him down. Frau came outside after hearing the noise. She was shocked when Adele told Rito to return to the capital right away. Adele declared that they would crush the people who had wronged him. She said she would personally deal with the court mages who had treated him badly. Rito was surprised by how quickly her mood turned intense. Adele claimed that power decided what was right. She said force was violence and violence was power. Rito told her to stop dressing up violence as philosophy. Adele looked proud after saying those words. Rito said he appreciated the concern, but he did not plan to return. He wanted to live a normal life in the countryside. Adele felt shocked when she heard that. She could not believe it. If he truly thought he was ordinary, then the world would be full of war gods. She saw how humble he was. Even during the war, he hid his face behind a mask. In the background, Manma felt happy after hearing something interesting. Rito told her to stop the embarrassing remarks. He said he already had enough of the capital. Adele said she understood, but she was already pulling out her sword. Rito realized she did not understand at all. Adele swung her sword and rushed toward him. She planned to drag him back to the capital by force. However, the fight ended in an instant. Rito bound her with vines right away. She looked defeated, yet she still held her pride. She expected that result from him. Rito wondered why she looked pleased even after losing. At that moment, Frau spoke up. Using the few human words she knew, she said fighting was bad. She offered to welcome Adel. Manma grew worried that Frau might anger a member of royalty. Adel made it clear she did not want to be welcomed because she only came to bring Rito back. Rito then had an idea and asked Adel for a small favor. Her ears lifted at once. He explained that they needed firewood for a party. A tiger had been seen in the woods, so he asked her to protect Frau. He told her to treat it like an escort mission. He warned her to watch out for things falling from trees or even the trees themselves. As she followed Frau from behind, Adele wondered why she agreed to this when she did not have time to spare. A while before that moment, she had heard about Rito's exile. She had asked if those people even understood how much he had done for the Empire's victory. A knight had explained that the Court Mage Division had filed many complaints. They had claimed that Rito had received too much special treatment. Adele had not believed it. She had called it absurd. She had thought it was simple jealousy. Some people might have believed Rito was arrogant, even if Rito himself had wanted it. Leaving the matter to the court had been a mistake. She believed she should have understood him better than anyone else. Anger had filled her chest. She had gripped her iron fan so tightly that it bent in her hands. The guards nearby had laughed and whispered that the princess was violent and acted like a brute. Adele had heard every word. She had glared at them and the air around her had grown tense. She had ordered her aide to prepare the dragon carriage. She had planned to go after Rito herself. Her aide had apologized and reminded her about her dinner meeting with Lord Julian. He had said that the dinner would affect her future. He had asked her to think about her position. Adele had answered that she understood. She had promised to return in time. Back in the present, Frau had asked Adele if she was truly a princess. In a calm voice, Adele had said she was meant to be one. She had also been the honorary captain of the 15th Imperial Knights. Frau had lit up with excitement. She had thought it was amazing that Adele was both a princess and a knight. Her simple joy had softened Adele's face. Adele had said she was stronger than she looked, though not as strong as Riedo. Frau had been impressed and had asked if they were friends. Adele had blushed. She had said their bond was deeper than friendship. They had fought side by side. He had been the only one who had trusted her to guard his back in battle. Frau had wondered what that kind of bond meant. Adele had explained that it was stronger than friendship. Frau had guessed that it meant comrades. Adele had agreed that the word was close enough. Frau had smiled and had said that she and Rito were comrades too. Still, she had admitted she would feel sad if Rito left. Even so, Adele had been determined to bring Rito back. She had felt it was her responsibility. In her mind, she had still heard the warnings. Some people had told her not to associate with a man of unknown origin. They had claimed there were better choices for her. They had insisted she would fulfill her duty if she gained the favor of another man. Suddenly, she heard Frau scream in fear. She saw a dead tree falling toward her. Adele could not believe she had lowered her guard during an escort mission. She moved fast and reached Frau just in time. She caught the falling tree with her own hands. Frau's eyes grew wide in shock. Not long after, Rito stared in surprise. Frau and Adele had returned. Adele carried the dead tree back with her. She snapped off the branches as if it was nothing. Rito asked if they had truly gone out to gather firewood. Navi pointed out that Adele was splitting the wood with her bare hands. Rito found it impressive. He believed she had continued her training even after the war. He had always known her as someone who worked hard. He also noticed that Frau had grown very fond of Adele. She followed her closely and watched her every move. Rito hoped Adele would come to like the village. Adele already seemed close to Frau as she taught her how to snap firewood by hand. That night, the village held another banquet. Frau asked Adel if she was hungry and handed her a meat skewer. Adel said she had rations from the capital and needed to manage her meals carefully. Frau mentioned that Rito had said the meat was delicious. Adel hesitated. The skewer looked fatty even though it smelled good. She finally took a bite and was surprised by the rich taste. She said it was delicious. When she looked up, she saw Frau staring at her. Frau said she was happy. She thanked Adel for saving her earlier. She shared that the others had also given their thanks. Adel told her it was nothing because she had only done her duty as a bodyguard. Still, she said Frau was welcome. Rito then walked up to them. He asked if this kind of life was not so bad. Adel looked surprised. A sad look crossed her face as she glanced around the village. She admitted that it was nice. She was not used to hearing words of thanks. Rito said he felt the same way. That was why the view in his territory meant so much to him. Adel asked if he was comparing it to the capital. She then apologized. She knew it was her fault that he had felt trapped at court. Some people had spoken against how close they were. She said she would no longer allow such foolish behavior. She promised to create a place where he could feel at ease. She bowed her head and asked him to return to the capital. She said losing someone like him was like losing 100 years of history. She told him he did not belong in a wasteland. Rito asked if Adel was speaking as a princess. Adel said she had been born a princess. She explained that she could not remain only a knight unless she kept achieving meaningful things. Rito saw how serious she looked. He apologized. He said he would not return to the capital. He only wanted to watch the plants grow little by little while he gathered firewood. He enjoyed the slow life in nature. Still, he thanked her for coming to see him. Adel's face turned red. She looked away and covered part of her face with her arm. She bit her lip and bowed again. She said she would leave early the next morning. She said she had not given up. She planned to return and bring him back to the capital. Rito told her she was welcome anytime. He said they could have barbecue again someday. Adele blushed once more. She promised to return as soon as she finished her task. She wished she could stay longer. She lowered her head because she had something important she could not miss. Rito suggested they call it a night and sleep early. Adele realized this was her chance. She shyly pointed out that there was only one house. She said she did not mind staying in the same place as him. She promised she slept quietly and would not cause trouble. Rito calmly used his plant magic. Trees grew from the ground and shaped themselves into a small house. He said the timing was perfect. He had been thinking about building a cottage for guests. Adele looked disappointed and said good night. A few hours later, Rito woke to the sound of whipping through the air. He remembered that Adele had said she would leave early in the morning, but it was still the middle of the night. When he looked at her, her face was serious. At the same time, the huge white tiger from earlier went to a lake near a shrine. It drank water and looked at the bright surface of the lake. Later in the imperial capital, a nobleman explained that the key to power was how well they used the common people. He suggested raising taxes as high as possible and using debt to control them. In that way, the people would be no different from tools. Adele listened while she sipped her tea. In their view, their land was theirs to control as they pleased. That was the way of the Craig family. Another nobleman praised him and said that knowing how to control the foolish masses showed the true skill of a noble. After the meeting, the nobleman from the Craig family left a few final words for Adelia. He said he looked forward to her reply. Another nobleman with long hair told Adelia to decide quickly because the Craig family held an important position in the empire. In fact, the man governed the Craig territory. However, Adele found him foolish. He only bragged about his skill, status, loyalty, and how superior he was. Later, as she took a bath, she looked up at the ceiling and sighed. She realized that Tugan village had been more enjoyable. A week passed. Frau said she had something to confess. Rito was surprised, not because she wanted to confess, but because she used that word. He asked if something had happened. Frau hesitated, but she finally admitted that she had said something bad to Adel. Rito thought it might have been something like being rude or speaking badly, but he wanted to hear it from her. He asked what she had said. Frau admitted that she told Adel she would be sad if Rito disappeared. She looked guilty. Rito understood why she felt that way. He said he did not think Adele had minded, but he suggested that she should still apologize. Frau agreed. Rito then said that if she did not put her thoughts into words, they would not be understood, especially by humans. However, Frau said it was already too late because Adele had left to return home. Rito replied that it was fine because a notice had just arrived earlier. He said the timing was right. Suddenly Adele returned while riding her usual mount. Frau felt shocked to see her back so soon. Adele said she came as fast as she could. It was time for her and Rito to return to the imperial capital together. However, Rito refused again. He said it had only been a week and the days had passed too quickly. Navi explained that even with an express dragon carriage, a round trip should have taken about 8 days. Adel said her dragon partner was special. While the dragon rested, she ran by herself. Rito wondered how that even worked. Frau watched them for a while. She gathered her courage and tried to speak to Adel. Before she could, Rito cut in on purpose. He handed Adel a bouquet of flowers. He said it was a small thank you because he was glad she came. Adel froze, her mind felt overwhelmed. She blushed when she saw the flowers. A moment later, her excitement disappeared and she fell asleep. Frau was shocked by what happened. Rito carried Adel to a bed in the guest house. He explained that he had used pollen to make her sleep. He remembered how Adel often pushed herself too hard. He asked Frau to stay with her and talk to her when she woke up. Frau said she understood. Rito then left to prepare dinner. Frau felt worried about being left alone. Navi tried to tell him something, but Rito ordered her to shut down. In the past, a young Adelia was caught in an accident while riding in a carriage. During that time, she saw a vision of the person she was meant to become. A mage appeared before her, surrounded by flames. After that day, Adelia trained with great effort. She ran many laps while others laughed at her. She ate as much protein as she could. She practiced sword fighting every day. She trained her body to grow stronger. Later, she took the Imperial Knights entrance examination and passed with high marks. She became the first princess in history to join the Knights. She was told to live in a way that honored her title. During one of her missions, Adel told the villagers not to worry because she would protect them no matter what. The villagers said that monsters never came to a remote village like theirs. They also could not believe that a woman was part of the Knight Order. They questioned her and said someone like her could not protect the village. The noble women called her a tomboy. The noble men still thought her face looked nice and offered to take care of her. One person treated her differently. It was Rito. During his mission as a hero, he told her to leave things to him. He knew she always tried to act strong, but he believed she was stronger than anyone else. Later, Adele's older brother asked how long she planned to keep pretending to be a knight now that the war was over. He believed she had already done enough. Even if it was only a small knight order, he arranged for her to become the honorary captain. Adele asked what he meant. Her brother said a good marriage proposal had arrived. He explained that it was time to use her reputation as a princess. In the present, Adele woke up and quickly sat up in bed. The sun was still high in the sky. She looked beside her and saw flowers that were used to help with tiredness. She understood that Rito had placed them there to be thoughtful. It meant he wanted her to rest. Still, she could not relax and decided to train. She did curls on the bed, push-ups on the floor, and held an invisible chair pose for some time. After that, she went outside to continue training. While she trained, she gathered firewood. Winter was coming soon, and having extra wood would help. It also made good training. Deep down, she knew she was avoiding something. She had run away, and that did not suit a knight. Even so, she thought there would be no real problem if she did not return to the imperial capital. The truth was that she did not want to go back, and that hurt her the most. She suddenly felt that a beast was nearby. It felt like it was watching her. A moment later, the feeling disappeared. She thought it was just her imagination. Frau caught up to her and asked if she was feeling better. Adel remembered that her name was Frau. Frau said that Adel had just woken up. Adel bent her arms and said she was completely fine. Frau felt relieved. Then her face turned serious, like she wanted to say something but was unsure. Adel understood what Frau was thinking. She told her not to worry because she did not plan to take Riet back with her this time. She said she enjoyed her time in the village and that was why she came back. She even thought about living there. Frau became confused and did not understand what was happening. The ground suddenly shook. In the direction of the village, Adel saw the light from Rito's magic. She realized something was wrong. She apologized to Frau and ran ahead. Frau's expression hardened as she finally made up her mind. Back in the village, the angry white tiger returned and destroyed Ryoto's house. Ryoto saw that it had grown stronger than before. He wondered where its new power came from. Navi studied the monster and confirmed that its magic had increased since the last time. Ryoto could not understand why the tiger was attacking the village when they were not grilling meat this time. He did not have any seeds strong enough to trap it in its current state. The only seeds he had were meant to kill. He asked the flowerkin if there was any Matatabi liquor left. The flowerkin shook their heads. Rito could not understand their language well, but he realized there was none left. Then Navi said there was a water shortage. She explained that even the Matatabi liquor supply had been used to make berry liquor for shipping. When Rito heard this, he realized it was his fault. At that moment, Adele appeared and called out to Rito. She said she would help him right away. She held her sword ready to fight. Rito warned her not to kill the monster. He told her to help the flowerkin retreat first. If the fight continued like this, they would be in danger and grow too tired to keep fighting. Adele picked up a stone and threw it at the white tiger. The stone passed through its face. The monster turned toward where the stone came from. Adele then used her speed to grab the flowerkin standing in front of the monster. The white tiger tried to react, but she was faster. She placed the flowerkin in a safe spot and moved back to rescue the others. She saw that the white tiger was a high-level monster. Compared to enemies she had faced before, this one was not a big threat to her. But then she felt dizzy. Her body shook, and she fell to the ground. She could not believe she had become this weak at such an important moment. Running away for so long had finally caught up to her. The white tiger saw that she could not defend herself and moved in to kill her. Adel tried to stand and protect herself, but she could not move. Before the monster could attack, Frau appeared holding a bucket. Adel was shocked to see her. Frau threw the liquid in the bucket at the white tiger's face. The monster began to act strangely. Rito was surprised. Navi said there should not have been any Matabi liquor left. Still, whatever was in the bucket was working against the white tiger. Adele told Frau to run away and said she would be fine, but Frau refused. She stood in front of Adele and protected her. It was now her turn to protect Adele. Adele froze. She suddenly remembered the carriage accident from long ago. She had cried loudly while kneeling on the ground. A woman with a pointed hat had saved her, but she was annoyed by how loudly Adele cried. The woman raised her voice and told her to stop. That made Adele calm down a little. The woman then knelt down to look into her eyes. She told Adele that if she wanted to protect someone in the future, it would be her turn next time. So she did not have time to cry. After saying that, the woman left with her disciple. She told him not to slack off. The disciple said he would hold back the monster nearby. The woman told him not to talk back. Adele wondered why she had forgotten that memory. She questioned herself. What was she doing? Why had she grown so weak? Rito could not take it anymore. He could not watch the girls' lives stay in danger. He took out the killing seeds he carried. He decided he would try to avoid hitting the monster's vital points as much as possible. However, he was too late. The white tiger swung its claws at the girls. He told them to be careful. Frau closed her eyes and prepared for the hit. Adele asked if he really told her to be careful. Using her great speed, Adele stood up and blocked the tiger's large paw with her right arm. She stared at the tiger and told Rito to take back what he said. The monster began to shake and could not move its paw. Adele grabbed the white tiger and threw it to the ground. Everyone was shocked. Rito used that moment to save Frau with his branches. Adele's presence changed. She told the white tiger to stand up. The others were even more surprised. She said the fight had just begun and that she would show who was stronger. The white tiger stood up again, and they started trading blows. As they fought, Adele said she felt the monster had something it wanted to express. She believed they could settle it through the fight until the monster was satisfied. While fighting, Adele remembered the things people used to say about her. Because she was a princess, they thought she was only pretending to be a knight. They called her weak because she was a woman. She felt anger rise inside her. She was not angry at them. She was angry at herself for letting their words distract her from who she truly was. She slid under the monster's body. She reminded herself that she was a knight who protected others. She grabbed the white tiger's tail and spun it around. She was done being a princess who only needed protection. She slammed the monster to the ground again. The others could not believe what they saw. Rito smiled. He had said the tiger was dangerous, but in close combat no one could defeat Adele. She was stronger than anyone there. Adele stood beside the unconscious white tiger, victorious. After the fight, the flowerkin carried the white tiger outside the village. Frau walked up to Adele and bowed in apology. Adele felt confused. Frau explained that she had thought Adele would take Ritu away, so she acted cold toward her. Adele did not remember anything about that. Still, Frau said that if Ritu wanted to return with Adele, she would accept it. She said she and the flowerkin had already gained so much from Ritu. Now it was their turn to do their best on their own. Adele told Frau that the village was a good place. She believed Rito belonged there. She saw that he smiled more honestly than he did in the imperial capital. If he could live that way, she felt happy for him. She then asked Frau to take care of Rito and Tugan village from now on. Frau was surprised. Adele also asked if she could visit sometimes. Frau agreed and said she would welcome her. Adele asked her to stop speaking so formally and to call her by her name instead. She reminded Frau that they had fought together in the past. Frau still sounded like she needed time to adjust, but she agreed. Adele then thought they still needed more practice getting used to each other. As Ryota watched them, he expected this result because he knew Adele's personality. Since everything was settled, he said it was time to eat dinner before cleaning up. He proudly shared that he had used his special homemade seasoning again. However, the pot he had moved earlier was gone. Frau suddenly looked uneasy. The liquid she had thrown at the white tiger was actually the soup Rito had cooked. Rito remembered the monster screaming after tasting the soup. He wondered if it had really been that bad. No one answered him. Navi stepped in and explained. She said her master's habit of making new seasonings was not a problem. However, she asked him not to serve them to other people again. The next morning, Frau told Adel to stay safe on her trip. Adel thanked her for everything. She smiled and called out to Rito. She reminded him that she would not return to the imperial capital without him. Rito refused again. Adel lowered her head. She formally thanked him for helping the Romancia Empire during the 100-year war against the demons. She also apologized for her rude behavior in Tugan village. She said she understood that he could not be happy in the imperial capital and that coming to the village herself had been selfish. She believed her actions came from her weakness and lack of experience. Even so, she did not want to leave without saying goodbye properly. Rito noticed the sadness on her face and apologized. Adel said she understood what had happened back then. For now, she decided to go her own way. She chose to walk her own path this time. She wished that luck would stay with him in battle one last time. Rito thanked her and told her to visit if she ever felt tired. He said she was always welcome in his village. When she heard that, Adele could not keep her composure. She cried openly. She called Rito's name again and again as if she did not want to leave him. She promised that she would come back to visit many times. After that, Adele said goodbye with swollen eyes from crying. She felt rushed. Rito saw that she had chosen to keep fighting. She was now ready to face things she could not face before. He knew she was strong. However, he also decided he would not run away anymore. It was his duty to protect the village. The tiger and the water shortage were problems he needed to solve quickly. He looked toward the mountains and felt that something was really there. He noticed that Frau was still staring in the direction where Adel had gone. There was curiosity in her eyes. Rito asked if she wanted to see the outside world. Frau became flustered when she heard the question and spoke to him in a very formal way, calling him Lord. He asked what she truly thought. She said she wanted to see it, even if only a little. Since he had business in town soon, he decided to take her with him. Meanwhile, in the Romancia Empire, Julian Craig received a message from Adel while he was exercising his arms on his throne-like chair. He believed she had accepted his marriage proposal. He could not believe she had made him wait so long. But his aide's eyes widened as he read the letter. He read the summary out loud. Adel had refused the proposal. Julian froze in confusion. The aide pointed out that the words "I refuse" were written in very large letters. Julian was even more shocked to see that the letter only had 2 words. As for Adele, she rested with her dragon somewhere while watching the sunrise. She stretched her arms and felt refreshed at last. Sometime later, Rito planted more springberries, red berries, and blackberries. He also planted crops that did not need much water, such as potatoes, turnips, and grapes. He planted them near the guest cottage. This time, he planted something new. Navi watched from behind as he planted the strange seedling that had grown from the unknown seed. It had grown fast, changing from a seed to a sprout and then into a seedling. It seemed ready to be placed in the ground. Rito knelt in front of it and thanked God. He admitted he had felt nervous because he did not know what kind of plant it was. He hoped it would grow strong and healthy. Navi praised him. She said that the income from red berries, other crops, mountain sake, and juice had already passed what he used to earn as a court mage. The village had started well. They had received many blessings. The only serious problem was the lack of water. It had not rained once since Rito arrived. That was not normal. The mysterious seedling grew very fast, so he moved up the time to plant it in the ground. For now, he needed to fix the water problem as soon as possible. To do that, he had to go to town to buy supplies and check the area around them. Before leaving for town, Frau went to her mother. She wore a hood to hide the flower on her head. Her mother told her to be careful. Frau assured her that she would be fine and said goodbye. She then went outside and called to Rito. She apologized for making him wait. Rito said it was fine because he had just finished preparing as well. He suggested they walk to the meeting place with the transport guild. It had been a while since he visited the town of Avaro. As they rode in a carriage, Rito told Mel that it had been a long time since they last met. He was happy to see that she was doing well. Mel said she was glad he was doing well too, but she still called him the noble boy from the capital. Frau felt worried and curious about Mel. Rito explained that Mel was fine because she worked with the transport guild and was partnered with Mia. Mel said she did not expect someone new like Rito to find a girl so quickly. She said he was impressive. Rito felt embarrassed and asked her not to say strange things in front of Frau. Mel then told them to rest and take their time during the trip, since they would reach town in the morning. That night, Frau sat in a corner and read her dictionary as usual. Navi asked if she was alright because she could see that Frau was nervous. Rito noticed that Frau's eyes had started looking toward the outside world after she parted ways with Adel. He thought she needed a small push forward while still keeping her safe from danger. The next day, Mel told Rito and the others that she would wait for them again in the evening. Rito decided to look for a map of the area. Then he felt that something was wrong. Frau looked worried. Navi tried to tell him, but Rito said it was fine for now. He urged them to keep going, and Frau agreed. The group visited a flower shop. Frau admired the flowers. Rito was surprised to see so many kinds. He noticed one called Fralens. He said it had a wonderful smell and was often used instead of perfume. He talked about more flowers and taught Frau about them. The shop owner was impressed by how much Rito knew. He offered to show them the flowers in the back. Rito was amazed. Some were flowers he had never seen before. The shopkeeper said some of them could not grow inside the city. Rito asked the name of one flower. The old man said it was called Hado Togisu. Frau watched as Rito excitedly learned about the plants and flowers. She giggled quietly. Rito asked if she felt a bit more relaxed. He said this world was not made up of only bad people. He added that he had only remembered that recently. Frau smiled and agreed. The shopkeeper smiled at their conversation. Frau then pointed to a flower that glowed at night. Rito immediately bought it. After that, Rito bought Frau a sling bag for her books. Frau asked worriedly if it was okay for her to take it. Rito said it was a thank you for coming shopping with him. Frau thanked him and promised to treasure it. As they walked down the street, Rito said it was almost time for their appointment. Some persistent people were following them. Navi confirmed it was the same people who had been tailing them since they arrived in town. Rito asked if there was a side path nearby. Navi quickly scanned the area and told him to turn right in 300 meters, then left after 50 meters. Rito tapped Frau and said they would run. The two ran as fast as they could in the direction Navi gave. The pursuers chased them but soon reached a dead end. They were confused when Rito and Frau suddenly disappeared. Then plants grew from the ground and formed a net. From the top of a nearby building, Rito asked who had been following them since that morning. At first he thought it was strangers, but on closer look it was Manma and another girl. Rito asked who the girl was. Later Mia apologized to Rito. She introduced the girl as Diaz, a member of the art guild Goddess's Paintbrush. Mia said she was close to Diaz and assured Rito that Diaz kept secrets well. Mia explained she asked Diaz to have an artist draw the bottle labels. Diaz said she would not decide until she could see the model's face in real life. Mama, she added, was just keeping a close watch. Suddenly, Diaz said she would draw the label. Mia was happy to hear that but wanted Frau to remove her hood. Rito was cautious and said he could not remove it. Diaz reminded him that they had agreed the portrait would be done in flowerfolk style with flowers. She said she would not draw the label if the hood stayed on. Frau did not hesitate to take off her hood. She said she could tell that Diaz was a friend of the cat girl's. She also noticed the smell of flowers on her. Frau did not think Diaz was a bad person. Diaz froze for a moment, staring at Frau in awe. She quickly brought out a canvas and a stool. She asked Frau to sit and pose for her. Frau gave an awkward smile and Diaz teased her for being stiff. She reminded Frau about the sparkle she had shown earlier in town. Frau relaxed and followed Diaz's instructions. Diaz drew the flowers first, making them the main focus of the portrait. Rito watched from behind and felt impressed by Diaz's work. After a while, Diaz finally put down her pencil. The portrait of Frau was finished. It captured her innocent and refreshing beauty perfectly. Diaz said she was done. Meanwhile, the cat girls had fallen asleep while waiting. Diaz showed the portrait to Rito and Frau, who both looked surprised and amazed. Frau thanked Diaz and Diaz blushed. She explained that ever since she read about flower folk in a picture book as a child, she had always wanted to meet them. She said she wanted to thank Frau instead. Then she mentioned that her next project would be woodblock printing, and asked them to look forward to the finished product. Rito thanked her for that. On the way home in the carriage, Rito told Frau he would give her a little bonus later and praised her for working hard that day. Frau exclaimed that she had so much fun and wanted to go again. Rito felt happy to hear that. As Frau fell asleep, Rito asked Navi about the scan. Navi confirmed that the precision had increased and that the 1-kilometer-wide area between Tugan village and the town they had just visited had been remapped. The scan showed that vegetation started to thin about 20 kilometers from the town and disappeared completely at 30 kilometers. This meant that only the 20-kilometer area around Tugan village was completely dry. Navi said this was very unnatural. In the town of Avaro, which they had just visited, there were no signs of water shortage. It seemed like only the land around Tugan village was affected, as if the water was avoiding it on purpose. Rito remembered what the flower shop owner had mentioned earlier. The man said his great-grandfather told him that the area used to be full of greenery, but at some point water began to avoid the land. Rito thought carefully about this. Navi then confirmed that a sea lay about 30 kilometers west of Tugan village. Rito said that even with his magic, that distance was too far to reach. For now, he suggested they stock up on everything they might need and plan every possible countermeasure they could think of. A month later in the imperial capital, people bought a lot of wine from Mia's shop. Not only the bottles with Frau's portrait, but also the bonus labels featuring Mia and Manma sleeping became popular. Mia celebrated loudly as she earned a lot of money. She realized she could make even more if she released more label designs. She thanked Rito for the idea of label marketing. An old man customer noticed the wine and overheard her celebration. He told his aide to investigate the cat girl. Meanwhile, in a private meeting in the imperial capital, several men talked about how it had been half a year since Rito had left. There had been no strange activity during that time. An older member asked if they still had no clue where Rito had gone. A bald man with a scar on the right side of his face said that Rito had escaped their surveillance early on. Another member said they had expected that. They explained that Rito was not a man driven by greed and that he hated standing out. People who chased money or fame were easy to control, but Rito was different. They described him as unsettling. One of them quietly sipped wine and suggested they should leave Rito alone. The Empire had already won the Great War, so they no longer needed heroes. As long as someone like him stayed quiet, that was enough. The others then wondered what to do with Rito's research results. Since his work was only about plants, no one cared about it. One member let out a quiet sigh. He only wished that the rebellious princess would act more normally. At the same time, near the library halls, young imperial knights gossiped about that same princess. They called her the Muscle Princess and talked about how she had recently rushed into the guild district. They thought her frustration had grown after the war ended. However, they wondered why she had gone to the guild district of all places. Many believed it had something to do with the missing hero. They had heard that she had been searching everywhere for him. Inside the library, Abel walked between the bookshelves with careful steps, holding a lamp in her hand. Her long hair moved as she turned. She looked happy. The reason was simple. Rito had asked her for help. He had asked her to find information he could not get himself. Abel did not usually visit the library, but this time would be special. The library had been neglected, and dust covered many surfaces. Soon she found the purchase records of someone named Abigail Collector. Most of the magic items kept in the locked archive had been bought by this person. Abel checked the records, which had been organized by year and month. She finally found the ledger that listed the seeds purchased in the past. As she read the entries, her eyes widened in shock. She could not believe what she had just seen. A week later, Rito stood in the middle of a dry wasteland and complained that there was still no water. It had been a month since he had gone to town. He had tried many ways to fix the water problem. He had collected morning dew and even performed a ritual to pray for rain, but nothing had worked. He knew they could not survive without water. He continued to complain as he stood in front of the mysterious seedling. Adele arrived carrying food. She reminded him that it was already summer and said he also needed to rest. She served chicken soup and chicken ham. Rito had not noticed that it was already noon. He thanked her for handling things while she was supposed to be on break. Adele said it was fine because it was also time for her to regain her strength by eating protein. Rito said the food tasted very good. Adele looked pleased. He had always known that her chicken dishes tasted great. However, he had never seen her cook anything other than chicken. After that, Adele brought up the research topic that Rito had asked her to check. Rito stopped eating and looked excited. He asked if she had found anything. Adele knelt in front of the mysterious tree and said he was right to think the information was in the Imperial Library. She then began scanning the tree. At that moment they heard a loud roar nearby. Frau ran in and announced that the white tiger had returned. Rito could not believe it had come back to attack after not showing up since Adele had thrown it to the ground before. He decided he would not let the monster do whatever it wanted again. This time he had already prepared special seeds to capture large monsters. Navi apologized because she had not been able to sense the white tiger. Adele stood up and told everyone to wait. She calmly walked toward the white tiger and tried to understand what it wanted. The two stared at each other in silence. The others held their breath. After a while, the white tiger lowered its head. Adele turned to the group and said the white tiger wanted them to follow it. Hours later, Rito said he felt exhausted. He and the others had been walking up the mountain for 2 hours. He wondered where the tiger was leading them. Navi said they were moving slowly because Rito was walking at a slow pace. Soon they reached their destination. Rito looked around but saw nothing. He asked Adele if she could truly understand the tiger. Adele explained that it was not exactly about understanding words. She said she could sense what it was trying to say. Rito wondered if that was some kind of skill. Suddenly the flower on Frau's head began to bloom wildly. Its petals spread all around them. Frau looked shocked. Navi sensed strong magic gathering in front of them. The tiger also trembled as magic power began to fill its body. At that moment, the ground shook. The thick trees in front of them moved aside and opened a path. The path led to a lake with a stone monument standing in front of it. Rito did not expect a place like this to exist in the eastern mountains. Navi confirmed that the area was filled with aerial mana. She explained that aerial mana helped strengthen the life force of living beings. Adele then understood why Frau's flower had bloomed so much. She said the place was perfect for Hanami, which meant relaxing together while looking at beautiful flowers. Frau thought it sounded fun, but she soon felt embarrassed by her reaction. Rito was more focused on the hidden area. He wondered if a barrier surrounded the place. If that was true, it explained why Navi's map did not show it. He noticed the stone monument near the lake. It had strange patterns carved into it. As he looked around, he realized the area was likely ancient ruins. He also understood that the white tiger was protecting the place. Rito tried many spells on the monument, but nothing happened. He then asked Navi about the stream nearby. Navi shared her thoughts. She sensed a faint but pure magic power in the water. Because of this, the water was clean and could help both plants and people. However, the stream was too small and shallow. If they used it, the water would dry up quickly and only provide short comfort. Rito felt disappointed. Navi also explained that even with her master's power, controlling and guiding the water would be difficult. In the end, it would not solve Tugan Village's water problem. Rito understood this. He then asked if she had learned anything about the monument. The pattern on it felt familiar to him. Navi said it was not in her records. She warned that if it was a monster dungeon, activating it without care would be dangerous. Rito believed he could handle a dungeon. He was ready to try anything. As the sun began to set, he suggested they return home. Before leaving, he collected a small sample of the water in a container. He hoped it could help solve the village's water problem. In the end, he still had not found a solution. Frau said she could guide him back even in the dark. Rito thanked her but suggested they leave early. Adele and the white tiger seemed to continue communicating with each other. Later, the village held a welcoming party for their new companion. The flower folk gathered around the white tiger. They gave it meat, and the monster let out a happy roar. The flower folk cheered in response. Rito saw that the feline monster was just a big cat after all. He still thought it was impressive. He wondered if Adele would give it a name. Adele decided to call the white tiger Nushi because it was the guardian of the forest. She felt as if it wanted her to choose the name, though she worried it might be too bold of her to do so. Rito thought the name was simple and good, just like Adele. He greeted Nushi, and everyone cheered again. Nushi then licked Rito with its huge tongue and covered him in saliva. The celebration continued. Navi said that the village had become lively again. Rito agreed as he sat beside the mysterious tree. Soon Manma and Mia joined the festivities. As the village chief, Rito felt happy watching everyone laugh and enjoy themselves. After a few minutes, Navi noticed that her master had gone quiet and looked serious. She asked if he was thinking about the water problem again. Rito said yes and wondered what he should do next. Navi did not have an answer. Adele then walked over and asked if he had time to talk. She said this was about the research she had mentioned earlier. Rito had almost forgotten about it. He quickly asked if she had learned something about the mysterious tree. Adele hesitated and began to sweat. Rito looked at her with excitement and hope. Adele then said that she believed the mysterious tree was the world tree, also known as Yggdrasil. Rito was shocked when he heard the information. He could not believe that the mysterious tree was the world tree. He stood still and stared in disbelief. Adele said it might be true even though she had only heard about it in fairy tales. Long ago, the world tree stood at the center of the world. Spirits sang and danced in the sky. They brought clean wind and water to everyone. All living things were filled with mana, and people lived in peace and comfort. Then one day, the world tree disappeared. Over time, the mana in the air grew thin. The world began to weaken. The spirits vanished. After that, only conflict and suffering remained. That was the legend Adele knew. In this age, she had thought it was just a fairy tale told only to the imperial family. But the details Rito shared matched the story. The seed had been silver and glowed with a bluish-white light. The sprout had been covered in 7 colors of light. Adele said it fit the legend perfectly. Still, Rito remembered that the seed had sprouted as a monocot. From what he knew, Yggdrasil was a dicot. The tree did not look like a monocot now. Adele said that kind of change should be impossible for a normal plant. Rito began to think the mysterious tree was copying something. There was more. A court mage named Abigail Collector had bought large amounts of strange goods from different countries. The records showed that this person had bought world tree seeds in the 248th imperial year. Later, the records were treated as useless and stored away with other old files. All of this evidence overwhelmed Rito. Adele grew excited and praised him. She said that if the tree kept growing in Tugan village, a new world tree would soon be born. She believed it would be the first in 1,000 years. Instead of feeling proud, Rito panicked. What began as simple curiosity had turned into something far beyond his control. The tree stood out too much. Then he realized another problem. If the water shortage was not solved soon, the tree would wither before it could fully grow into the world tree. The thought hit him hard, and he fell silent. While the others celebrated, Rito felt like he was breaking down inside. Tugan village already had a strange water shortage. There was also a mysterious stream and an old monument nearby. Now there was the world tree. His mind felt overloaded. He slapped both of his cheeks to calm himself. As the village chief, he told himself he could not think negatively. He called Navi and asked her to study the water from the stream right away. Navi asked if it was fine to do it so late at night. Rito said he needed clues about how to activate the ruins as soon as possible. For now, he could only assume that the ruins near the stream were connected to the strange water shortage. Manma suddenly walked up to him. She looked drunk and leaned against him. Rito smelled strong alcohol from her, but her soft body made it hard to push her away. Even so, he did not have time to deal with her. He told her to leave because he was busy. Manma called him cruel and walked away in an unsteady way. Mia then came over and asked if he was really busy. Rito apologized and said he was only a little busy. Mia seemed like she wanted to tell him something, but she held herself back. Rito told her it was fine and that she could say what she needed to say. Just as Mia was about to speak, Navi warned Rito about danger. She told him to look at Manma. Manma had grabbed a drink to use as a chaser. She was holding a container filled with mana water from the stream. Rito panicked and told her not to drink it. His sudden shout surprised her. In shock, she swung her arm and the container flew toward the world tree's seedling. Rito froze as the water spilled onto it. He could not speak. The mana water had not even been fully checked yet. All he could do was shout in disbelief. The next morning, Frau went to see Rito and asked if he was okay since he had not slept. He sat in front of the world tree with a tired look on his back alone. Dark circles showed under his eyes. He greeted Frau and told her he was fine. He said he was only worried about the world tree, so he stayed to watch it. For now, he felt relieved that it still looked healthy. Still, he knew he would not be able to stop watching it anytime soon. It felt like a long battle that would slowly wear him down. At that moment, Navi appeared and offered to watch over the tree for him. She told him to get some sleep. Rito tried to refuse, but Navi gave him a sharp look. She said he had been thinking too much lately. She reminded him that she had already promised to support him no matter what. She asked if he understood, speaking in a scolding tone. Surprised, Rito said he understood and thanked her. He then asked Frau and the other flowerkin to take care of the fields while he rested. Frau said that working hard was what they always did. While the others worked in the fields, Rito went to his bed. He had just remembered how tired he was from climbing the mountain the day before. Then he recalled that Mia had been about to tell him something. He wondered what it was and hoped he had listened carefully. Soon he fell asleep. At that moment, a smiling little girl appeared beside the world tree's seedling. On their way back to town, the cat girls let out heavy sighs. Manma felt she had made a big mistake and thought Rito was angry. Mia sighed again. Manma noticed that Mia looked even more upset than she was. Mia admitted that she had something important to talk to Rito about. Manma wondered what it could be. 4 days earlier, Mia had been enjoying herself in the imperial capital after selling the wine bottles. She celebrated at a nearby cafe because she felt like she had won an economic battle. She believed she would become the biggest merchant in the guild district. While she was there, a man praised her growing business. He introduced himself as a member of the pharmaceutical guild called Maiden's Leaf Cup. Mia felt shocked because Maiden's Leaf Cup was a large and powerful guild. She quickly stood up and greeted him politely in a businesslike way. The man greeted her as well and gave her a gift that Catkin liked. He said he had heard that her products were selling very well, even though she had once been only a spring berry merchant who had suddenly appeared in the district. Mia said she had just been lucky and that it was thanks to major guilds like theirs that signed regular contracts with her. The man said she was being too modest. He then mentioned their current order of 100 boxes and said it might be hard to prepare, but she had been a great help so far. Mia thanked him for their support, but she suddenly froze. She realized he had said 100 boxes, not 100 baskets. The man showed her the order form, which clearly listed boxes. Mia felt shocked because one box held 10 baskets. That meant 100 boxes were equal to 1,000 baskets. It was 10 times more than their usual order. She knew it would be impossible to complete. She apologized and said it had been a busy time and she must have read the order wrong. The man said it was too late to make excuses. He explained that they were already preparing to receive the full order. If she failed to deliver, they would not make another contract with her soon. He reminded her that losing the trust of a major guild would damage her reputation. It would likely become hard for her to continue working in the guild district after such a mistake. He ended by saying they would wait for the delivery in 10 days. Back in the present, Manma felt shocked. She realized it was her fault that Mia missed the chance to talk to Rito. She nervously asked how many days were left before the deadline. Mia looked down and said there were 6 days left, including that day. Manma was surprised and told her to return to Tugan village right away and ask Rito for help. Mia said it was fine. She explained that Rito was only her business partner and she could not keep depending on him. She also believed it would be hard for him to help this time. Tugan village could not produce that many springberries right now. Manma asked if this was because of the water shortage. Mia then forced a smile and said it was fine since she would fix her own mistake. Even so, Manma still felt worried. When she got home, she quickly wrote down everything she remembered about Tugan village before she forgot. Even if she had been sober that night, she knew there was nothing she could do at that moment. She looked at the donuts and the bottle of wine that Mia had given her before they parted. Then she continued working. The next day in Tugan village, Navi told Rito that a visitor was coming. When Rito saw the dragon carriage, he wondered who it was since he did not have any meetings planned. Manma came running in with dirt on her face. Without taking a breath, she apologized for what she did while drunk the other night. She also apologized for causing him trouble again and again. She bowed her head deeply. Rito said the tree was fine, so there was no problem. He asked why she seemed in such a rush. Manma stepped forward and handed Rito her notes. She begged him to help Mia. Rito took the notebook and looked through the pages. He saw spells with similar effects grouped together. The notes were neat and easy to understand. Manma explained that Mia was in serious trouble at work and needed springberries. She asked him to use the spells to fix the ruins near the stream. She wanted him to prepare 900 more baskets of springberries. Rito was shocked. He asked how she knew about the ruins near the stream. Manma proudly reminded him that she was a reporter and had sharp ears. Rito also noticed the dark circles under her eyes, the ink stains on her hands, and her messy hair. He looked at Navi, who told him she would take care of the world tree. Rito then decided they should leave right away. Rito and Manma went to the ruins near the stream, but nothing they tried worked. Manma eventually sat down on the ground in frustration. Rito stayed calm and looked at the problem from a different angle. Instead of thinking about spells, he wondered if the place needed a key. He asked Manma when the delivery was supposed to arrive. Manma said it would come in 4 days. After thinking about the travel time, Rito realized they only had 3 days left. From everything he had heard, Rito came to the conclusion that Mia was being treated badly. It seemed like people were trying to deceive her. Manma agreed and believed someone was setting Mia up. Rito understood the situation well because similar things had happened in Gardel before. He hated seeing innocent people get caught in unfair situations. Manma said problems like this existed everywhere. Even so, she felt happy that she had met friends like Mia and Rito. Rito agreed, though his expression looked a little sad. He then said they needed to fight back against the people causing trouble and turn the situation to their advantage. Manma did not understand what he meant at first. After hearing his words, Manma suddenly realized something. She quickly grabbed her notebook and rushed to leave, saying she needed to go home immediately. Rito asked if she wanted him to come with her, but Manma refused. She said this was something she needed to handle herself and promised to clear her name. After all, she was a reporter. Rito smiled and called out to her one more time before tossing her a small pouch. It was tiny enough to fit easily in her hands. He told her to use it on the bad people if she ever got into danger. Manma waved goodbye and thanked him for always helping her. Rito waved back and wished her luck. In his mind, he expected nothing less from an ace reporter like Manma. The next day, Mia went to the merchant's residence to make a deal and apologize for her mistake. However, the man drove her away and made it clear that no matter how many times she returned or apologized, it would change nothing. Hidden nearby, Manma secretly watched her friend get chased out of the gates. She promised herself that before the 3-day deadline for the delivery arrived, she would uncover the truth and catch the person responsible. Later at the information guild called Wings of the Pen, Manma looked through documents about the old man who had visited Mia's place. His name was Pirelli, an important figure from a certain guild. From the records, all Manma saw was that he had a suspicious-looking face. The Maiden's Leaf Cup was a guild that had existed since the founding of Gartland. However, it had many factions, and signs of division had been appearing lately. Pirelli was the leader of the faction that cared most about money. A bald coworker named Joe came in holding a cup of coffee. He asked Manma if she was not tired of reading those strange business stories. Manma strongly disagreed and said the information was important. She then asked Joe if he knew anything about Pirelli. Joe said Pirelli was heavily guarded, so there was not much gossip about him. Still, he did know one thing. Pirelli was known for chasing after women. When Manma asked what he meant, Joe explained that Pirelli regularly visited a certain place 5 times a week. According to him, it was a popular shop in the next town. Later in the nearby town of Rebiest, Manma disguised herself as a customer and entered a cabaret club. Cute Beastkin girls served drinks and entertained the guests. While blending in, Manma carefully watched the next table where Pirelli sat quietly. Beside him was a younger man proudly talking about how good the alcohol he made was. The cabaret girls agreed that it tasted great and thanked him for the drinks. Manma recognized the loud man as someone from the wine guild. She began to wonder if he and Pirelli had a close connection. A cabaret girl suddenly asked if Manma was nervous, catching her by surprise. The girl introduced herself as Remy and asked if this was Manma's first time in a place like that. Flustered, Manma admitted it was. Remy found her adorable and started touching her fluffy hair. Remy then looked toward the next table and commented on the noisy customers nearby. Her expression turned serious as she explained that the two men had been having a difficult time lately, though they seemed to be in a much better mood now. Curious, Manma asked what she meant. Remy explained that the louder man was part of the wine guild. She mentioned that a drink with a cat label had recently become more popular than the guild's own products, which made him jealous. At that moment, Manma understood the situation. The wrongly delivered items meant for Mia were likely a way to harass a business rival. Remy quickly acted surprised, realizing she had shared more than she intended. She admitted she had let her guard down because she thought Manma was also a beastkin. After hearing that, Manma noticed that most of the female workers there were beastkins as well. Without thinking, she touched her left ear hidden beneath her hat. Not long after, Pirelli stepped outside. Manma immediately focused on him and watched as he spoke with a bartender. She had a strong feeling that something suspicious was about to happen. Later, Manma went to an alley near the inn where Pirelli planned to stay for the night. All she knew for now was that he was visiting a nearby town where many beastkins lived, and was even staying overnight there. She imagined him as someone with bad intentions toward the beastkin girls. She decided to gather proof so she could blackmail him and force a negotiation. As she moved, the wind suddenly blew away her hat, revealing her ears along with visible stitch marks. Manma swore to save Mia this time. 6 years earlier, a suspicious boat docked near the town of Avaro. The men unloading crates complained about how difficult it had become to transport goods from the imperial capital. Since they had been cut off from Gartland, there was little they could do about it. Suddenly, one of the crates shook and fell to the ground. A girl slowly crawled out and ran away. She tore off the price tag clipped to her left ear without caring about the pain. She looked exhausted and lifeless. Not long after, another young beastkin found her and checked on her condition. Even though someone called out to stop the girl from wandering off, she still approached the weak beastkin lying on the ground. The girl was Mia. She offered some special donuts she had made and gave one to the dirty beastkin girl, Manma. After sniffing the donut, Manma took a bite. While eating, she commented that it smelled like oil, but she still wanted more. Mia was happy that Manma liked it, but first brought her to a clinic. She helped Manma receive treatment, gave her food, and even found her a job at her boss's store in the shopping district. Later, Mia finally opened her own stall. Manma pointed out that it was small, but Mia remained hopeful and saw it as an important first step toward her dream. After hearing that, Manma's ears lowered. Mia then asked if Manma had a dream of her own. Since she had once been treated like a product, Manma admitted that she had simply grown tired of everything and decided to run away. Mia believed that choice showed strength. To her, it meant Manma had refused to accept the life she was given and wanted something more. Hearing this made Manma wonder if she was truly someone special. Mia strongly believed she was. Mia also shared that she was working hard to achieve her own dream of becoming rich. When Manma wondered what Mia planned to do after becoming rich, Mia realized she still did not have an answer. Suddenly, someone stole a fruit from their stall. Manma noticed it right away and told the man to stop and return what he had taken. However, the man escaped before they could catch him. Manma complained that they had let him get away. Mia sounded impressed and asked how Manma had known he was the thief. Manma explained that she had seen the man's face in the newspaper and the rest had just been a guess. She also mentioned recognizing his smell. Mia then got an idea and encouraged Manma to become a reporter. Manma looked confused and wondered what Mia was suddenly talking about. Mia said that being a reporter could become Manma's new dream because she clearly had talent for it. Since Manma often looked at things with doubt and suspicion, Mia believed she would fit the job well. Back in the present, Manma watched Pirelli leave the inn while wearing a coat and a hat. He was holding something in his arms. Manma quietly followed him from behind. It did not take long for Pirelli to reach his destination. He entered through the back door of a house. Manma then noticed an open window and listened in on Pirelli and another man inside. Pirelli apologized for being late and the other man thanked him for making the trip again. Being a catkin, Manma was flexible enough to squeeze herself through a small opening and slip inside the house unnoticed. The man served Pirelli tea and said there was nothing happening in the south. Pirelli, clearly tired, told him to get to the point and asked about the shipment. Hearing that word made Manma uneasy. The man said he had brought his finest selection this time. A group of beastkin girls with dirty appearances was then brought forward. The man proudly explained that they were beastkin from the imperial capital. Manma's eyes widened and her face turned pale. She noticed the tags on their ears and quickly realized these girls were pet beastkin from the imperial capital. She remembered that human trafficking was supposed to be illegal in the southern continent. She never expected Pirelli to be involved in something this terrible. He was not just the strange man she had first assumed him to be. Determined to expose the truth, Manma grabbed her pen and prepared to write everything down. Pirelli questioned whether there were really buyers for these kinds of beastkin. The man confidently replied that they were very popular in the royal capital. After that, he took the case from Pirelli. While checking its contents, he asked about the issue involving the spring berries. Manma continued listening carefully. Pirelli said he had done everything the man asked. He explained that he had taken as much as he could from the cat girl, and had even gained help from the wine guild. He added that Mia was as good as finished. Although the method was indirect, Pirelli claimed it was still better than the barbaric methods being used in the imperial capital. The man thanked him for the compliment and continued speaking. He explained that it would be troublesome if a new source appeared after they had already crushed the current supplier. Manma could not believe this man was also connected to the spring berries incident. At that moment, she finally understood the truth. Mia had never been the real target. Their true goal was to limit the supply of spring berries. But that made no sense to Manma. Everyone believed the poor harvest had been caused by bad weather. Before she could think further, a man suddenly appeared behind her and caught her by surprise. He asked what she was doing sneaking around. Manma was surprised by the man's appearance. He held a bloodied cleaver used for butchering. She had been too focused on the conversation and failed to notice someone approaching. Pirelli could not believe a rat had managed to sneak in, but the man disagreed and called her a bug instead. As he waved his hand, the beastkin girls shut their eyes because they already knew what was about to happen. Something invisible suddenly pierced through the wall behind Manma and sent her flying away. She was shocked by the sudden magic attack. She quickly ducked to the floor and trembled in fear, convinced she was about to die. The attack barely grazed her fur. Pirelli angrily called the man an idiot and reminded him not to do anything too flashy. The man simply replied that he hated bugs. He waved his hand again and Manma immediately understood what was coming next. She ran as fast as she could while one magic attack after another was fired at her. She could not believe she had gotten herself into such a dangerous situation. A huge pair of hands suddenly reached for her. Thanks to her sharp hearing, Manma sensed where the attack was coming from and dodged the large man with ease. Her only goal was to escape through the exit. However, the door was locked and she did not have a key. She tightly grabbed the small pouch Rito had given her and prepared herself as she kept running straight toward the door. The huge bald man doubted that a small cat girl like her could break through it. To everyone's surprise, the door suddenly swung open outward, allowing Manma to tumble safely onto the ground. The bald man was shocked because the door was supposed to open inward. Unknown to everyone, traces of plant magic had briefly appeared on the wooden door before disappearing right away. Without wasting another second, Manma ran away as fast as she could. The trafficker calmly noted that the rat had escaped. Pirelli quickly realized it was the girl from the information guild and ordered the other men to chase after her. Meanwhile, the trafficker climbed onto a dragon and announced that it was time for him to leave. He even removed his bartender outfit, showing he had no interest in joining the conflict in the countryside. Pirelli was left speechless. As Manma escaped, she organized everything in her mind. Pirelli had been buying beastkin from the Empire and selling them in the south. On top of that, he had been working with a mysterious person from the Empire to cause the shortage of spring berries, though their true goal was still unknown. After learning all of this, Manma could only conclude that she had stumbled into a much bigger case than she had expected. She suddenly stopped when she noticed men patrolling the area. She had already reached her limit. She struggled to catch her breath as sweat covered her body. At last, she made it to the dragon carriage. However, several muscular men were already waiting there to ambush her. The men tried to grab her, but vines suddenly wrapped around their bodies and held them in place. They could no longer move. The vines came from the small pouch Manma had received from Rito. She finally understood that it had been meant for this exact moment. Using the chance, she quickly jumped onto a dragon. She looked back one last time before disappearing into the distance. Not long after, Pirelli learned that Manma had escaped. He was frustrated, but he did not see her as a serious problem. To him, she was just one small rat. By the next day, he believed everything would be erased. From a nearby rooftop, Rito and Navi watched everything happen. Rito let out a sigh of relief after seeing Manma escape safely. On the day of the delivery, a servant informed Pirelli that he had a visitor. He expected Mia, but instead Manma walked in. Pirelli looked down at her as she calmly sat in the reception area and looked around the room. He stayed composed and asked why she had come. Manma told him he likely already knew the reason. Still, she wanted to show him an early copy of a special article scheduled for release later. The front page revealed information about Pirelli, an executive from a major pharmaceutical guild secretly meeting with a mysterious capitalist from the imperial capital. The article also listed serious crimes linked to him, including human trafficking, market manipulation, involvement in the springberry shortage, and possible spying activities for the Empire. Manma stared directly at him. Pirelli suddenly laughed out loud. He treated the article like a joke and assumed it was some kind of comedy project from her guild. Manma remained calm. She insisted that the Information Guild only reported the truth. Pirelli found it ridiculous that she could say that after publishing what he believed was complete nonsense. Manma then mentioned that the imperial capitalist was rumored to be running a restaurant in a nearby town. At that moment, Pirelli began sweating coldly. The drawing in the article looked exactly like the imperial capitalist. He had expected the arts guild to be skilled, but the accuracy still shocked him. Manma added that an informant had reportedly seen the same man the previous morning boarding a ship heading to the imperial capital. Pirelli became even more nervous. Manma explained that they did not yet have full evidence, but they would gather it soon. She pointed to the employees at the Rabiest and the 3 Beastkin girls he had recently brought in as examples. Pirelli burst into laughter again. He thought the people from the Empire were foolish, but now he believed the people in the South were just as stupid. Feeling confident, he proudly admitted that he had already burned down the shop along with the employees. He claimed not even a speck of dust remained. Manma stayed calm as she explained that he probably did not know what happened because he ran away from the scene too quickly. She told him that the Information Guild had already taken charge of protecting the employees and had managed to stop Pirelli's men. Pirelli was shocked by what he heard. Panic quickly set in as he asked what Manma wanted from him. He knew their conversation would be pointless if she planned to make the information public. The only reason he could think of was that she wanted to make a personal deal. Manma smiled and thanked him for understanding the situation so quickly. She then placed a document on the table and reminded him that contracts in Gartland were absolute. If he signed her contract, all of the articles would be destroyed. Pirelli could not accept those terms. He became angry and accused her of mocking him. He believed he could easily get rid of someone like her with the help of his people. Manma pointed out that this was exactly why he relied on the Empire's power. Even with his large guild and wealth, he could not do much on his own. As a member of the major guild Maiden's Leaf Cup, he should have understood that better than anyone. She reminded him that the Information Guild Wings of the Pen was also a major guild and warned him not to underestimate them. She placed a pen on top of the contract and gave him one final choice. He could either sign the contract or spend the rest of his life in prison. As she tapped the paper, she urged him to decide before she changed her mind. Sweat poured down Pirelli's face as he slowly reached for the pen. The moment he signed the contract, a servant rushed into the room. Sounding completely defeated, Pirelli told him to start packing because they were leaving. But the servant quickly reported that a huge crowd had gathered outside the mansion, along with the law enforcement team. Pirelli rushed to look outside and was shocked to see them gathered at the gates. Furious, he turned to Manma and accused her of tricking him. Manma casually tossed the contract aside and asked if her article had really been destroyed properly. She then remembered that she had left the final draft on her desk. Earlier, Joe had found it and read it. Now he was standing outside with the crowd. She guessed that someone must have stolen her article and claimed it as their own work. She acted as if she found the situation unfair. Then she slowly turned to Pirelli and stuck out her tongue to mock him. Enraged, Pirelli charged at her. Before he could reach her, the law enforcers entered the room and stopped him. They quickly restrained him and calmly asked him to come with them. As he was dragged away, Pirelli shouted that he was an executive of a major guild and insisted that he was being framed. Finally relieved, Manma dropped onto the sofa. At that moment, all she wanted was to eat some donuts. After the commotion, Pirelli's mansion was taken down. A large cloth covered the area, and the mansion was quickly demolished. Mia saw that her shop had been moved to the main street and fully renovated. She was surprised by the new prime location and the changes. She also noticed many new employees, who were girls from a neighboring town involved in beastkin trafficking. She remembered receiving an apology for an incorrect order, but she no longer understood what had really happened. Still, she believed everything had worked out and credited herself for the improvement. Manma apologized to Remy for the recent incident. Remy, who now worked for Mia, said she had not known their previous workplace was involved in dangerous activities. Even though the old job had paid better, they had wanted a change, so she told Manma not to worry. Manma still felt uneasy as she watched the Beastkin girls working together. Mia announced that the shop sign had finally been decided and that she would arrange everything with the Arts Guild right away. Manma checked the new name and was surprised that it was no longer Matatabi Store. Mia said it was time for a change after the renovation. The new name was Voyage again, marking a fresh start toward their dream. Manma thought the name was a bit long for a shop. Mia hugged Manma and felt that this was another step toward becoming rich, believing she was a genius. Manma thought it was just luck, while Mia believed luck was also part of skill and daily actions. Manma agreed. Years earlier, Manma had agreed to become a reporter after Mia suggested it. Manma asked to stay under Mia's care a little longer. Mia agreed, saying there was no need for hesitation between companions. Manma promised to repay her someday, and Mia said she would wait for that day when Manma became successful. Manma published a front-page article about Voyage again. The article focused on the reopening of Mia's Matatabi store on the main street, now renamed Voyage again. It described the shop's cute employees welcoming customers with bright smiles, along with alcohol and crops from Tugan village. She encouraged readers to visit the store. She also added that the name Voyage again had the same meaning as Matatabi. Manma later shared the article with Rito, wearing a proud expression. Rito was surprised that she managed to trick Pirelli into giving up the land, funds, and old trade routes and even had him arrested. Manma said Pirelli made the first move, so it was simply an eye for an eye. Rito then realized how dangerous Manma could be. Even so, Manma chose to keep the matter of the spring berries and the Imperial spy secret for now. There were still too many unknowns and she did not want to worry Rito. Rito felt relieved that everything had been settled safely. Manma then removed her hat and leaned toward Rito. She said that as a reward for her hard work he could pet her without hesitation. Rito hesitated at first, but then remembered how he had wanted to have a pet cat in his past life. He gave in and enjoyed the soft feeling of her hair, something he had long wanted. As he petted her, Manma said it was also fine to touch the tag marks on her. Rito was surprised to hear this. Manma knew he had noticed them and assured him that they no longer hurt. Riso felt glad that she had moved on from her past. Still, Manma wanted to keep it a secret from Mia. After their calm moment, Manma became serious again and opened her notebook. She said it was time to repay Riso. She mentioned an ancient geological survey report for land management and an old manuscript about spirits likely smuggled from the Empire. She compared the two and discovered the true identity of the ruins. Meanwhile, on a ship heading to the Empire, the Imperial man from before received a message delivered by a messenger crow. He thought the countryside was still backward, saying that without war, magic development was about 100 years behind. He was relieved that his forged documents had not been noticed. As for the spring berries, he decided to wait until things calmed down. He then focused on a new priority. When the cat from the Information Guild had escaped, traces of plant magic were found. He could not help but laugh. He realized he had not seen that kind of magic in a long time. He did not expect the hero of the invasion to be hiding in the south all along. He wanted to report to his boss immediately. Soon after, Rito and Frau watched as Manma tested every piece of information she had gathered. However, the ruins still did not open. She collapsed onto the ground, crying and covered in dirt and ink. She had been certain that the ruins would open with the spells she had collected. She also believed the ruins were a dungeon belonging to a monster that ruled over water. In her hands she held a document with a drawing of a serpent-like creature. Rito concluded that it had been a false lead. Manma refused to accept that because her information had been certified by the Excavation Guild itself. She felt like the fee she had paid for the information had gone to waste. Even though she had stacked up many notes, they had only become useless paper. Rito also believed the ruins were connected to water, but he wondered why they still would not open. Something had been missing. Seeing that Rito and Manma were at a loss, Frau brought out their packed lunch. After drinking tea, Rito felt refreshed. Frau was glad to see that. Meanwhile, Manma wanted to go home and drink Matapi wine. Rito stopped her and gave her a cup of water instead, telling her to drink it rather than alcohol. He had heard that the catkin always neglected drinking water and become sick. Manma was surprised by how unusual Rito's information was, as always. Since it had been hot lately, he also warned her to be careful. Navi confirmed that the area was warmer and drier than the imperial capital because of its lower altitude, and summer had just begun. Rito could not believe that he had not made progress in the past 4 months since arriving. Manma complained about how dry the weather felt. While Frau tried to cool herself by waving her hand in front of her, she suddenly noticed something and ran to the stream. She called out to Rito and said that the water level had not gone down at all. She pointed out that even though it had been sunny, the puddles were shrinking while the stream stayed the same. Rito and Manma then realized what was happening. The stream was still under some kind of influence, the ruins were still active. The surface stream and the deeper water were still connected. Frau began coughing, which made Rito worry. It reminded him of the dead flowerkin. Mia's business had finally started to grow, but Rito still had not solved the water shortage problem. On top of that, the flowerkin's springberry medicine was starting to run out. After this, Rito made a decision. He told Navi that they would dig a hole and force the dungeon open. Navi was surprised and reminded him that this was not meant to be an invasion or destruction. However, Rito did not care about that. It was the only solution he could think of. Navi already knew he had considered relocation before and suggested that he consult Frau and the others. Rito said that he wanted to protect their home. If there was a way, he wanted to try it while there was still time. Navi could not argue further and stayed silent. Rito said that the two of them would carry out the operation in the morning and handle it alone. That night, while the others were asleep, Rito went outside alone and sat in front of the World Tree sapling. He believed his plan would work. It always worked when he served the Empire, but this time it was clearly an invasion. Still, he had no other choice. He realized he had not changed at all. His choices had always been limited. After closing his eyes, something felt wrong. When he opened them again, he found himself inside a train from his previous life. He looked to the side and saw his past self riding home. He also saw a young girl in front of him. She asked for his name without speaking. He told her his name. The girl then walked away and he followed her. As they moved through the train, images of other people flashed across the windows. He introduced Navi, Mia, Manma, Nushi, Adel, Frau, and the Flowerkin to the girl. At that moment, he realized something. He remembered that night during a cheerful banquet. He had been careless when he said he wanted to protect the Flowerkin's home. He also realized he did not truly want to leave Tugan village anymore because it already felt like home to him. The girl then told him telepathically to give her a name when she grew up. He did not expect that request. He moved closer and promised that he would think about it and choose something better than simply calling her World Tree. The girl gently patted his head. Something changed inside him. Then she smiled and disappeared. Mama woke up because of the noise and went outside to see what was happening. She was shocked to see Navi looking huge and floating in the air. Rito stood frozen while staring at her. Frau also arrived and looked worried for Rito. Navi then confirmed an emergency activation and completed an ability evaluation on Rito. Vines, branches, and flowers grew from him and took root into his chest. He received the title World Tree's Blessed One and also gained the skill Omniscience. Manma walked up to Ryoto and said that he had received a strange title. She asked if he was okay. Ryoto held his chest and said he was fine. He was surprised because it was a hidden status in this world, something he had not seen in 10 years. With his new power, Rito decided to return to the ruins. Manma said she would go with him. Navi warned her that the mountains were dangerous at night. Frau also said she would be fine in the mountains at night and offered to lead the way. When they reached the stream ruins, Rito asked Manma to cast the spell. As she chanted, Rito activated his new skill. A piece of the puzzle began to move, but he did not know what it was. Navi confirmed that the special barrier had been removed because of the title World Tree's Blessed One. Rito told the girls to stay back. The water became violent and started swirling on the ground. The girls stepped away, and Frau called out to Rito in worry. Rito stayed in place and tried to understand what the missing piece was. The water slowly calmed and revealed something. A large carved gate appeared with the face of a woman. Rito recognized it as the same kind of structure that once gave Navi her physical body. He realized the place was not a dungeon, it was a spirit temple. More specifically, the Temple of the Water Spirit. Manma ran toward the gate and quickly started writing in her notebook. She was amazed by what she saw. Rito checked if the girls were all right. Frau confirmed they were safe and thanked him. Navi then announced that the title World Tree's Blessed One had been recognized, causing the special barrier to disappear. Because of this, the Water Spirit Temple finally appeared. Rito and the girls walked to the other side of the gate, which was sticking out from the ground and facing downward. Frau explained that it led deeper below. Manma felt nervous when she looked down and saw how deep it was. Rito told the girls to stay behind while he went in first. Navi quickly disagreed and insisted they should all go together. Manma excitedly said this would become an important article, while Frau promised to do her best. Although surprised, Rito eventually agreed to let them come along. He then led everyone through the gate. As they entered, Manma shut her eyes because she felt like she was falling endlessly. To her surprise, she landed safely at the bottom. Rito, now leading the group, reminded everyone to watch their step and stay close to him. Manma wondered how they could land safely after seeming to fall into empty space. Frau was amazed by the strange place around them. Rito was thankful that the moonlight lit their path. Frau felt uneasy because the area was so quiet and empty. Manma teased her for being scared. Rito then asked if Manma was not scared as well. She proudly reminded him that she was an experienced journalist who had survived many dangerous situations before. At that moment, a small crab quietly crawled behind her and grabbed her tail. Rito looked closer at the cave walls and noticed they were covered in glowing moss. The deeper they went, the more moss appeared around them. Suddenly, Manma screamed and jumped onto Frau, holding onto her tightly. Rito quickly picked up the cause of the scare and showed her it was only a crab. Manma immediately relaxed. Frau then noticed that Manma smelled like ink and sunshine. The group went deeper into the temple while following a small stream. After some time, they reached a room with a large altar in the center. Navi confirmed that she sensed a reaction coming from the middle of the altar. Manma commented on how huge the altar was, while Rito guessed that it was likely used for spirit worship. Without warning, the altar's cover broke apart into pieces of light, revealing a pool of water inside. Manma thought it meant they were being welcomed, but Rito was not fully convinced. Frau then watched as Rito dropped a seed into the water and used his growth acceleration skill on it. The seed quickly grew into large, thick vines that absorbed the water. Even so, the water level did not go down at all. Manma asked what Rito was trying to do. Navi then explained that the water was made of mana. This made Rito realize that no matter how much water the vines absorbed, it would continue to regenerate endlessly. As Manma took notes, he asked Rito what that meant. Rito concluded that the only way to continue forward was to dive into the water themselves. This immediately shocked Manma. Rio then asked Frau if it would hurt her if he plucked the leaves on her head. Frau explained that Flowerkin did not feel pain from that because the leaves were separate from their main bodies. Rio realized this was similar to symbiosis, though he also considered that it could be a form of parasitism. He decided he needed to study it more later. Rio asked Frau if she could give him a few of her leaves. Manma looked confused by what he was asking. Frau said yes, so Rio thanked her and used an enhancement spell on her. The leaves on Frau's head quickly grew bigger. Ryoto picked one leaf and mixed it with some glowing moss. He folded the leaf, placed it in his mouth, and suddenly pushed his head into the water. The girls watching him were shocked by what he did. Manma could not understand what he was trying to do. 5 minutes passed, and the girls started to worry. Ryoto finally lifted his head out of the water, looking completely fine. Navi checked his condition and confirmed that his vital signs were still normal. Rito felt relieved and proudly explained that he had created a tool inspired by the Flowerkin's sunbathing. He called it the grass tank. It could create oxygen even from very weak light, allowing them to breathe underwater. The girls stayed silent after hearing his explanation. Rito noticed their reaction and asked if they did not believe him. Navi sighed and explained that their silence was actually because of his strange naming choice. Frau quickly said it was a great name, while Manma commented that Frau was simply being nice. After removing some of their outer clothing, Rito and Manma each placed a piece of grass in their mouths. Rito noticed Manma shaking and asked if she was really going with them. He knew that catkin like her were usually bad with water. Even though she was clearly scared, Manma insisted that she was a fearless journalist. While Manma tried to prepare herself, Rito turned to Frau and asked her to wait behind. He created a red flower and handed it to her. Rito explained that if the flower wilted and he had not returned, she should go back to the village and deliver a letter to Adele. He told her this was also an important part of the exploration and said he was counting on her. Frau agreed to handle it. After hearing her answer, Rito jumped into the water without hesitation. Manma tried to follow him, but fear stopped her as she clung tightly to the edge of the altar. Seeing her shaking, Frau asked if she was really not going. Manma let out a loud scream before finally diving into the water as well. Frau watched them leave and wished them success. At that moment, Navi activated the skill Omniscience. This allowed Rito and the others to see clearly underwater. The glowing moss also gave them enough light to see their surroundings. Menma kept her eyes closed but gave Rito a thumbs up to show that she was fine. As Rito looked around, he noticed that the place looked more like an ordinary cave than a temple. He started wondering which direction they should go. Suddenly, Navi reported that a strong noise was being caused by the mana inside the water, making accurate detection impossible. She advised him to stay careful. Rito understood and immediately told Navi to make mana protection the top priority. He noticed that she still was not opening her eyes at all. Navi accepted the order. For now, Rito decided to move toward the area where the plants were growing the most. He believed it might have something to do with the flow of mana. As he swam straight ahead, he noticed that all the underwater plants were species he had never seen before. In this world, plant magic was a mix of earth and water attributes, so underwater plants were outside his area of expertise. That made the trip more exciting for him. He touched one of the plants with interest, feeling excited that there was still so much about this world he did not know. He hoped to study these plants someday. Suddenly, Navi warned him that a mana reaction had been detected behind him and was approaching at high speed. Meanwhile, on the surface, Frau waited for the others. She sat on the edge of the altar and dipped her feet into the water. She absorbed the water through her feet and found it calming. She thought the water was beautiful and it felt good to her. She wondered if Rito and Manma would be safe. She found herself calling Rito Lord in her thoughts again because her human language skills were still weak. Even though her thoughts could reach other Flowerkin instantly, she still struggled to express herself clearly. She wanted to understand more. She also thought about Manma and how it would feel to face danger with pride in her work. She remembered the mage who once gave her a dictionary and wondered what it was like to travel across the world. Like Rito, she also thought about gaining power so she could help others. She lay down on the floor and looked at the ceiling, which looked like a starry night sky. Still, she preferred the real starry sky she had once seen with Rito. Suddenly, footsteps echoed nearby. Frau quickly stood up, sensing danger. She knew she had to get help. She looked behind her and saw only fish. She shrieked in surprise. Meanwhile, Navi confirmed what had just appeared around them. Manma opened her eyes and looked shocked. Rito realized they had been surrounded very quickly. Navi confirmed that fishkin had surrounded them, the same kind that Frau had just encountered. Seeing the large intelligent sea creatures surprised Rito. He did not expect them to exist in this place. They looked like mascot characters from Earth. Since arriving in the south, everything had been new for Rito. He felt excited. At that moment, Mamma started struggling underwater as she tried to breathe. Rito immediately asked Navi what was happening. He wondered if the fishkin had done something to her. However, Mamma simply let go of the grass and placed it back in the cat girl's mouth. Mamma apologized and said she only opened her mouth because she was surprised. Suddenly, the fishkin began making strange movements. Rito watched them in confusion and wondered if they were dancing. They did not seem like they were going to attack. Navi then sensed multiple new signals approaching. Mamma panicked and quickly held onto her leaf again. Rito thought it might be reinforcements. Surprisingly, it was Frau, riding a horse. Rito was shocked to see her riding an underwater horse while being escorted by more fishkin. It was too much for Rito and Mamma to take in at once. They both felt confused about the horse Frau was riding. Navi checked her database. Rito noticed the horse had a mane made of water grass, hooves made of seashells, and crystal-like eyes. He first thought it was a water spirit. However, Navi completed her scan and confirmed it was only a species of water horse. Rito still got excited and asked Frau if she could understand the horse. Since he could not talk properly with the leaf in his mouth, Navi translated for him. Frau then waved her hands in front of the fishkin. Rito realized they were communicating through gestures. At that moment, the fishkin released bubbles. Frau entered one and explained that they could breathe underwater if they stayed inside the bubbles the fish created. That was why she followed them. Rito touched one of the bubbles and saw that it did not pop. He wondered what it was made of and how it kept air inside. Frau said she saw Rito's grass tank and came up with the bubble idea. Rito realized photosynthesis was involved. He could not believe Frau had come up with the idea so quickly. He started trembling as he wanted to learn more about Frau and the plant on her head. Mamma noticed him giving Frau a suspicious look. Suddenly, the fishkin started gesturing again, but this time they looked sad. Frau also looked upset. Rito asked what they were saying. Frau said they wanted them to follow. Navi asked if it might be a trap. Frau denied it and explained that the fishkin were asking for help. As they traveled, the fishkin explained what had happened long ago through Frau. The world tree had disappeared and the water spirit had fallen into a deep sleep. Because of this, the fishkin closed the temple to protect the water spirit. For hundreds of years, the water spirit had remained asleep. Rito thanked Frau for the translation. He also realized they had gone very deep and would likely not be able to go further without the fishkin's bubbles and the water horse. They soon arrived at a large room with an altar on the far side. Mamma ran ahead and said it was much bigger than the previous one, but the altar was empty. Rito also confirmed that no one was there. Mamma tried to take out her notes while still in the water, but she made a mistake and the notebook became completely soaked. Rito then noticed that Frau had become very quiet. Frau said that the time had come and repeated the words the fishkin had been saying. Water began to flow out of the empty altar. Navi was shocked and started glitching. She said she could not control herself. Rito wondered if she was reacting to the altar. Frau continued repeating that the time had come. Navi then confirmed that the blessing of the world tree was activating. Mamma was speechless when she saw a glowing orb appear inside the water of the altar. Frau kept repeating the word hurry. Rito reached out toward the glowing orb in the water. The fishkin came out of the water and began to pray. Rain started to fall. A body slowly formed on the altar. Rito and Navi watched in silence. Bluish translucent skin appeared first, followed by ears shaped like fish fins, and then a dress made of flowing water formed around her. Navi confirmed that the woman lying on the altar was the water spirit. The fishkin bowed in front of Rito. Frau said they were happy. Suddenly the water spirit stood up, catching everyone off guard. She opened her eyes and smiled at Rito. A sudden burst of pressurized water shot toward him. Rito quickly grew thick vines and formed a wall to protect everyone. They managed to hold it off. The water spirit began speaking. She called the children of an arrogant man foolish mustard seeds that should never have grown. She said those who had withered the world tree had no right to disturb her sleep. Rito could see that she was very angry. Even the fishkin became afraid. Rito placed Frau and Mamma inside a protective barrier made of thick vines. Then he ran in the opposite direction and asked Navi for support. Blades of pressurized water followed Rito. He dodged them as they sliced through nearby pillars. He knew a single hit could kill him. It had been a long time since he felt danger like this. The fishkin panicked as the water spirit continued speaking coldly. She asked Rito if he planned to destroy the remains of a deeply wounded world. Her anger kept growing with every word. Rito knew that anything he said would not help. He remembered something similar from his past life, and the memory made him feel sick. Navi warned him that his focus was dropping. Even so, Rito knew there was only one way out. Navi warned him again about an attack coming from the left. The water spirit's attacks kept coming. Frau hit the vine wall and asked what was happening. Mamma cried on the ground. Since she thought she would die anyway, she tried to drink her last berry liquor, but a vine suddenly snatched the cup away. Rito said he would take it. Holding the cup, Rito ran toward the water spirit. He said the liquor was made from berries by the villagers. He explained that they had survived in the wasteland and produced the wine despite the lack of water. The water spirit fell silent and watched as Rito knelt before her. He offered her the drink and asked what was wrong, suggesting they talk things out. Rito was finally using a middle management skill from his past life. This left the water spirit confused. Everyone sat down to eat together. Manma still looked upset because Rito had stolen her last bottle of sake. Frau told her she could drink again once they returned to the village. The water spirit, Undine, drank the alcohol quickly and started complaining about humans. She said her anger never faded whether she slept or stayed awake. Because of humans, she had been forced into a long sleep and had to leave her own people behind. While drunk, she angrily asked Rito if he was even listening. Rito poured her another drink and apologized. Manma could not believe Undine had repeated the same story over and over for quite some time. Frau asked if everything was okay and Rito assured her it was fine. While continuing to entertain their guest, Rito asked Frau to bring more alcohol and crops. Undine happily said the sake tasted good. Rito felt glad that she enjoyed the berry wine. He also showed her the crops and dishes from his village. Seeing the food reminded Undine of the offerings she received long ago. Back then, aerial mana filled the world. During those times, people gathered together to share drinks and spend time with one another. But once humans learned magic from them, they became arrogant. They used aerial mana carelessly until it disappeared. Because of that, the world tree withered and the beautiful world was destroyed. Rito realized the current water shortage was caused by humanity itself. He thought every world probably ended up making the same mistakes. Manma then asked how Rito could still use magic. She explained that aerial mana was supposed to be the source of magic, but there should not have been any left. Undine quickly moved closer to Rito and agreed with Manma. She pointed out that he had even blocked her attack. Even though a small amount of aerial mana still remained inside her temple, she realized Rito was a skilled magic user. Navi looked jealous as the two stayed close together. Rito explained that modern magic no longer needed aerial mana. Instead, people used the mana inside their own bodies. Undine told him to stop acting modest. Rito could smell the strong scent of alcohol coming from her. After a while, Undine commented that the sake tasted good before finally bringing up the main topic. She said humans always acted the same way with their offerings, hospitality, and even by bringing someone powerful to meet her. She believed they wanted something from her. Her expression then turned serious as she asked why they had awakened her. Rito felt intense pressure and started sweating nervously. He explained that they wanted her to share water with them. He told her the land around the area had dried up and become barren while she slept. He admitted there was nothing they could do with their powers alone. Undine immediately refused. She said she had no reason to help the humans who once destroyed the world. Frau stepped in and loudly pointed out that Rito had saved the flower folk. Thanks to him, they now had delicious food. She also said he had restored the mountains. Manma agreed, although part of the reason was that Rito had become her source of income. Undine then explained that aerial mana was as important to spirits as air was to humans. Without it, spirits could not continue to exist. Even so, humans never stopped using aerial mana despite knowing the damage it caused. Because of that, the world tree died. Her appearance suddenly changed from anger. Her body turned into water as she glared at Rito. She could not believe he had awakened her and asked for help as if nothing had happened. She angrily told him not to make her laugh. Humans changed the flow of the world to fit their own desires. She called them ugly monsters consumed by greed. Rito understood her feelings very well. He hated that part of humanity too. That was why he had left the imperial capital. He knew he could not argue with the water spirit. Frau stepped in once again and strongly insisted that Rito was different. Somehow, Undine calmed down after hearing that. Still, she warned Frau that humans would one day destroy the flower folk as well. She told her to hate the humans. Rito smiled and said he agreed with the water spirit. He admitted that he acted for his own ambition. Nothing else mattered to him besides that goal. He also admitted that he did not want forgiveness for his actions. After hearing this, Undine suddenly transformed into a giant and frightening fish monster and faced him. Rito admitted that he truly was the ugly monster Undine described. Undine, whose face appeared on the giant fish's head, warned him that she would cut off his head if he spoke again. Water suddenly surrounded Rito's body. Even so, he continued breathing and speaking. He looked seriously at Undine and explained his ambition. He once wanted to live far away from people, study plants and magic forever, surround himself with plants and live alone. However, after arriving on the southern continent, his ambition changed. He claimed that his new goal matched Undine's wish. Undine asked what he meant. Instead of answering directly, Rito asked for her cooperation. He said that if she shared water with them, he would restore the land to the beautiful place it once was. Undine angrily asked what someone as small and powerless as him could possibly do. She shouted that the world tree had already disappeared long ago. Rito quickly explained that the world tree was in his village and that everyone there lived happily around it. Undine became genuinely shocked. She angrily demanded to know how the world tree ended up in human hands. To her, it sounded impossible. Still trapped in the water, Rito admitted that he did not fully understand it either. However, he confidently told her that the world tree was healthy and doing well in the village. Navi then stepped forward to show what happened on their side. She displayed images of the world tree while it was still a seed, being planted in a pot, and later growing into a small sapling that Ryito carefully raised. After seeing those memories, Undine returned to her normal form and finally calmed down. Ryito noticed that the water around him felt warm and filled with sadness. Undine then asked for his name once more. He introduced himself as Ryito Ricardo. In the end, Undine decided to lend him her power one time. Ryito thanked her and said he looked forward to working with her. Frau, Manma, and the fishfolk happily celebrated together. After things had calmed down, Ryito was shocked by what the water spirit told him. Undine confirmed that it would take 100 years for the rivers and springs to fill with her clean water again. For humans, that was only about 3 generations. Ryito asked if there was a way to make it happen faster. Manma quickly suggested that Undine could simply release all the water at once. However, Undine explained that doing that would only damage the ruined mountains even more. Ryito understood right away, but the girls still looked confused. He asked them what they thought would happen if a huge amount of water suddenly flooded the dry land. Frau answered that the trees would grow. Ryito explained that everything would instead end up underwater. He said the land needed plant roots so the water could slowly soak into the ground and help the earth recover. The roots loosened the soil and stored water underground. Nature worked best when things improved slowly over time. If the land could recover within 100 years, that was already good enough. Ryito then told everyone they needed to get moving because he had made a promise. Undine reminded him that humans without aerial mana could not do anything yet. Manma asked what he planned to do. Ryito answered that he already had an idea, but first he needed to ask everyone for help as soon as possible. To restore the wasteland, everyone took action in their own way. Manma focused on research. Mia handled gathering supplies. Frau guided the flower folk. Ryito even asked Nushi for help. A week later, Manma wondered if covering the entire mountain with trees would really work. Mia quickly said they had no choice but to try. Frau confidently said everything would be fine because Ryito was their savior. Manma sipped her sake and commented on how much trust Frau had in Ryito. Frau grabbed Manma's cup and angrily reminded her that the day was important. Outside the shrine, Ryito called for the water spirit. Undine rose from the water while the fishfolk slowly came out from the shrine as well. Undine looked around and confirmed what she already feared. She still could not sense any aerial mana. She could hardly believe this ruined place had once been beautiful. The fishfolk looked unhappy because the stream was too small for them to swim properly. Ryito apologized and promised that they would soon be able to swim freely again. Undine quietly watched them for a moment before turning her attention to the land around her. She believed that if the world tree had truly revived, the world would slowly return to normal, even if someone as small as Ryito did nothing. Still, because of the fine liquor he had offered, she decided to lend him her power one time. She told him to begin. Ryito thanked her and said that was more than enough. He then called out to everyone, telling them it was finally time to fulfill their promise. Undine gathered water in her hands. She admitted that she never expected much from promises anyway. Then she launched a massive sphere of water into the sky, breaking through the clouds. Seconds later, rain filled with pure mana poured down across the land. Seeing the rainfall, Ryito called on Navi for support. Undine continued to watch with doubt in her eyes. Ryito then cast his spell, Growth Acceleration. Trees quickly sprouted around the area. Even after seeing this, Undine still looked disappointed. She mocked Rito's magic, saying it only managed to do this much. Still, it was exactly what she had expected. Suddenly, a loud roar from Nushi echoed through the mountains. This shocked Undine. Rito said it was finally happening. Curious, Undine tapped the water to sense what was going on. She discovered that saplings were beginning to appear all over the mountains. Confused, she asked Ryito what he had done. Without using aerial mana, it should have been impossible to use such large-scale magic across the entire mountain. Ryito explained that it was not his power alone. He had the flower folk like Frau act as relay points for his magic. With his growth acceleration, they received mana and carefully adjusted how each tree grew in real time. If the trees grew too much, they would run out of water. Undine could not believe the flower folk could use magic since they were not supposed to have that ability. Ryito disagreed. He said it was mainly because no one had ever been able to communicate with them properly. As he expected, the flower folk could control plants with great precision, almost as if they were speaking directly to them. Ryito also had Manma search old documents for suitable seeds for the mountains, and he had Mia handle getting those seeds. He asked Nushi to transport supplies and send signals. This was how everyone in Tugan village worked together. Frau then signaled the other flower folk, and they worked together to make the trees grow quickly. Ryito said he could never have done it alone. Navi was surprised to hear her lone wolf master say that. The fishfolk became excited. Undine asked Ryito if this was the land of the past he had promised. She said there was still no aerial mana and no world tree reaching the sky, so they could not fly freely. Even so, the wind felt refreshing and the smell of greenery was pleasant. Undine danced as she laughed. She then eagerly asked Ryito if this was still not the end. Ryito said they were just beginning the real part. At that moment, Navi activated the title Blessed of the World Tree. Undine was shocked to see such a large amount of mana coming from him. Ryito then formally asked the water spirit to lend them her power. Undine now understood why the World Tree had chosen Ryito. Navi then confirmed that the mana reaction from the water spirit was increasing. She confirmed that Undine was transforming. She had turned into a huge sword made of water that pointed down toward the earth. Ryito excitedly said that the groundwork was complete. Undine was the finishing touch as she crashed into the ground. Huge waves of water scattered in all directions from the top of the mountain. Ryito said that by the will of the World Tree, water would circle through the world. The trees and grass moved as if they were alive. The ground shook as water flooded through the mountains. New saplings grew and more grass became lush. The stream of water rushed through the mountains until it reached the bottom, where it formed a river that showed the freshness and life of nature. Mia and Manma, who were watching from the roof of Ryito's house, celebrated. Frau, who was sitting on a tall tree branch, smiled as she watched the water flow. Ushi also watched from a tall cliff. Undine danced around the new river with the fish folk while continuing to release her water. Ryito told her it was enough for now since the village would get flooded too. Undine told him to shut up. She said she knew the land better than anyone and would not forget it. Ryito just smiled as he watched Undine continue. Navi glared at him. Suddenly, Undine told Ryito to head back first because the World Tree was calling for him. Meanwhile, the flower folk spent time by the river they had not seen for a long time. Frau's mother walked with an elder and called out to Frau. She asked if the place reminded her of the old days. Frau stood proudly, acting like she had always believed in Ryito the most. She felt she had to thank Ryito for all the changes that had happened. Suddenly, Ryito called to her while riding on a raft and asked for her hand. He pulled her toward him and she landed on his lap. He apologized and Frau told him she was fine. Ryito then said his plan had worked, and that he was glad everything went well. Frau thanked everyone for working together. She also said it was not only because of Ryito. Ryito was surprised. Frau explained that everyone worked hard, but Ryito had helped them a lot in the end. She called him amazing. Ryito became silent for a moment. Then he said she was wrong. Until recently, he had thought humans were ugly. He had hated them deeply and felt disgusted by them. He believed he was different from other people, and that may have been why he chose to become a hero. But recently, he realized he had been wrong and had ignored many things. Even after that, he had talked about throwing everything away and living alone. He had even thought about living only with plants, but this made him see that he had been selfish, foolish, and no better than the humans he once hated. He realized he had actually received many things from others, even if he had not noticed it before. Frau said it was hard to understand, but what mattered was that Ryito was a good person. Ryito smiled. He said it was thanks to Frau reaching out to him that he realized he was just an ordinary human. He finally understood himself and felt like he had become Ryito at last. He then asked Frau not to be so formal with him anymore. He wanted her to treat him as one of her companions. Navi interrupted their emotional moment and coldly said there was a waterfall ahead. Ryito panicked and asked angrily why she only said it now when the waterfall was already right in front of them. Navi pointed out that Ryito had been speaking so seriously that she thought it would be rude to interrupt him. Ryito could not control the raft. He wondered if they had no choice but to jump. Just when they thought they would fall, two fish folk appeared and carried the raft on their backs. They helped guide it safely down the tall waterfall. Ryito looked panicked as he held the raft tightly with his left hand. With his right hand, he held Frau's hand. It was the first time Frau saw him make such a strange face. When they reached the bottom safely, Ryito was relieved that the cushion flower he had made worked just in time. He asked Frau if she was all right. Frau laughed, and her flower bloomed a little more. She thanked Ryito for being her friend. Ryito was surprised at first, then laughed and agreed that they were friends. Navi interrupted their moment again and coldly told them they were almost at the village. When they returned home, the cat girls complained that Ryito and Frau had been flirting the whole time. Ryito was happy to see them and said their plan had worked. However, the cat girls said something strange had happened with the World Tree. They said it had grown and was now about 1 meter tall. They pointed to where it was, but at that moment, a little girl appeared and called Ryito her father. After some time, Undine finished pouring out the water. She realized it was more than enough to make her temple the main source of water for the land. She then noticed the fish folk waving a small pouch. She remembered that it contained the water plant seeds Ryito had given her. As she traveled, she scattered the seeds along the way. It had been a long time since she had seen the outside world. She decided it was finally time to leave for Tugan village. Meanwhile, Manma and Mia insisted that a little girl had appeared beside the World Tree. However, no one could be seen. The cat girls searched around the tree, and even Navi confirmed that there were no signs of anyone nearby. Ryito looked at the World Tree and began to suspect something. At that moment, the flower folk returned from their assignments. Ryito tried to welcome them back and tell them that the mission had been a complete success, but they ignored him. They rushed past him and headed straight for the berry farm. Navi pointed out that the flower folk paid no attention to her master at all. Holding back tears, Rito said he understood that they cared about their fields more than anything else. After inspecting the farm, the flower folk thanked Rito. He then realized there had never been any problem with the mana water used on the plants. Mia then said that the tree girl was no longer around. Rito remembered his promise to give the world tree a name once she had grown up. He assured the cat girls that they would see her again soon. He then said that there was something even more important to focus on. Even though everyone was tired, they needed to prepare because a guest was coming to the village. Mia excitedly guessed that it was the water spirit. Manma proudly said that she had already met her once. Frau commented that it had been a long time since they last met. Meanwhile, Navi let out a loud tongue click, surprising everyone. Rito could tell that she was in a very bad mood. A short time earlier, Undine told Rito to return to the village. She also said she would follow after the water level rose. Navi then said she thought Undine could not leave her temple. Undine was surprised that a counterfeit spirit understood those restrictions. Her comment offended Navi, and Rito quickly asked her to calm down. Undine explained that high spirits normally could not leave their temples. However, a temple was not just a physical place. It was more like a vessel or a state of existence. Then she moved closer to Rito, stopping only inches from his face. She decided that Rito himself would become her temple. Navi immediately stepped in and glared at Undine. She argued that physical contact should not be needed for mana synchronization. Undine replied that humans were weak, so she had to touch his skin. She also found it hard to believe that an artificial spirit would speak to her that way. Navi angrily said that had nothing to do with the situation. She firmly stated that she was Rito's artificial spirit. Undine quickly realized that Navi was simply jealous. Navi blushed with embarrassment, showing an expression she rarely displayed. After watching Navi fall silent, Undine pointed out that Rito had been chosen by the World Tree. Because of that, Navi would meet many more spirits in the future. She warned that Navi would struggle if she let her emotions run wild over every situation like this. Navi had no answer. Seeing the argument continue, Rito nervously asked both of them to calm down and suggested dealing with it another day. Just remembering that argument made Rito's stomach hurt. At that moment, Undine's voice echoed through the area, announcing her arrival. The others became excited. Meanwhile, Navi suddenly appeared behind Rito with an unhappy expression. Undine arrived riding on the back of a seahorse, with the fish folk following behind her. Navi was surprised to see her outside her temple. Undine explained that the plants Rito had given her had formed a bond with her. Rito once again asked the two spirits to get along peacefully. The cat girls wondered if another fight was about to start. Rito became flustered when Undine suddenly rushed forward. He thought she was about to attack someone. Instead, Undine ran straight toward the World Tree sapling. The fish folk became emotional when they saw the World Tree. Undine stopped in front of it and quietly stared. She touched its leaves and base while remembering the distant past. She recalled the time when they had traveled through the skies together as spirits. At the same time, she remembered leaving for her temple, when she discovered the destruction that had changed the world. After that, she chose to turn away from the rest of the world and stay with the fish folk, who had remained by her side. Undine's memories were suddenly interrupted when loud cheers echoed across the village. The flower folk expressed their gratitude. The cat girls drank together while Frau chatted with the fish folk. Others played games and ran through the village. It was a wonderful sight, and Undine enjoyed watching it. As she moved closer to Rito, Navi confronted her again. Undine told her there was no need to worry. She admitted that Tugan Village was a beautiful place, and Rito was happy to hear it. Then Undine's mood grew somber. Warm droplets of water appeared around them as she explained that water flowed throughout the world according to the will of the World Tree. It nurtured life and guided rebirth and harmony. Because of that, she decided to entrust a part of herself to Rito. Navi could only watch in shock. A spirit contract was taking place before her eyes. A bubble of water surrounded Rito and Undine. Rito closed his eyes as he received Undine's blessing. She thanked him, saying that because of him, she felt capable of loving the world again. Rito was glad to hear those words. The warm droplets continued to fall gently throughout the village. The sudden humidity made Manma's fur puff up and become frizzy. Rito could feel the life energy within every drop. He asked Navi for a status report, but for the first time she ignored him. After a brief silence, Navi finally responded. She confirmed that he had gained the title Contractor of Undine and had learned a new skill. Rito immediately became excited and called everyone over. He then pretended that his right hand was hurting. Navi helped him activate his new skill, Watering Can. A thin stream of water flowed from his palm. Everyone fell silent as they watched the water arc through the air. Rito looked disappointed by the result. Undine explained that she had used most of her power to moisten the land, so this was all she could grant him for now. Rito had hoped for something more impressive. However, Mia quickly pointed out that the skill could greatly expand their business opportunities. Rito was surprised and immediately asked Navi whether the water supply was unlimited. Navi confirmed that there was no limit to how often the skill could be used. The meaning became clear at once. Rito realized they now had an endless source of drinking water. Long-distance travel would become much easier. They could explore unknown lands and trade with distant regions. With such an advantage, the village could develop much faster than before. Ryito thought for a while. He told everyone he had many things to consider, but he wanted to do something first. The flower folk suddenly made Undine sit down and served a lot of food. Everyone picked up their cups. Ryito said they should have a wrap-up party first. Undine was surprised by how quickly everything was set up. Ryito raised his cup and thanked everyone for their help. The group enjoyed the rest of the party. Ryito helped the fish folk stay moist on land. Undine played with Manma's fur, and the flower folk danced around. In the end, the water shortage problem was solved. That night, Ryito and Navi looked at the scenery before sleeping. Navi complained that Undine made a big fuss and left just as quickly. Ryito said it was better than long, tiring meetings. Navi stayed quiet for a moment and then asked what he had promised. Ryito looked confused. Navi asked what Ryito had exchanged as a vow with the water spirit. Ryito understood what she meant. He said Undine wanted him to keep loving the world and in his short life to seek joy, sorrow, and simple pleasures. Navi understood that Undine wanted Ryito to enjoy life fully. Ryito said that was perfect for someone like him. Navi reminded him that she would always support him. Ryito told her not to worry because he would never forget his vow with her. Ryito and Navi's vow was to never betray each other. Even if Ryito said he wanted to live alone, Navi stayed by his side. No matter what spirit he met in the future, he would not leave Navi behind. He trusted her completely as his partner. Navi finally calmed down and took his hand. She hoped they would continue enjoying the world together. At that point, Ryito had a reliable partner. Trustworthy companions, a lively atmosphere, a strong land with deep roots, and clean, abundant water. The village was safe now. It was the final day of his work. Ryito went to the faucet he had made and thanked it for supporting their lives until then. The water system that brought up underground water had been built using benri grass when he first arrived. It provided water for daily use and farming, and it had been everyone's lifeline. However, groundwater was not unlimited. Plants lived, and when they died, they returned to the soil and became part of the earth again. Life continued in this way. Ryito turned off the faucet and thanked it once more. He then used his spell, Life Decay, on it. A month later, the cat girls traveled back to Tugan village. When Manma saw how much food the village had produced, she wondered what Ryito would grow next. She remembered that his next crop had been wheat. Mia wanted to sell the wheat in large amounts and was determined to make it happen. Manma excitedly announced that they had finally arrived as she looked out the carriage window. Mia noticed how much the village had changed. Tugan village had grown into a thriving farming community. A river flowed peacefully through the green fields, and the land looked full of life. Ryito and the flower folk were working in the fields. They had just finished planting winter wheat seeds. Navi congratulated her master on the village's successful expansion. Ryito, however, looked concerned. The village had grown several times larger than before. It now had a large flower folk community living there. A month had passed since Ryito formed a contract with the water spirit. The villagers first built irrigation canals that carried water from the river into the village. At the same time, the flower folk moved there in large numbers. Because of this, the farmland expanded quickly. According to Frau, everyone was happy living close to the fields. Within a week, they had settled into their new homes. The fish folk also built a fountain on their own. They seemed to have learned the necessary skills while helping maintain the temple. That was how things reached their current state. Even so, Frau still felt embarrassed about calling Ryito without using honorifics. Ryito hoped everyone would continue working hard until the spring harvest. After the wheat, he planned to grow soybeans since the village now had a better water supply. He also wanted to grow rice. Navi remembered that rice had been the main food from Ryito's homeland. Ryito talked about how delicious it had been, and how it went well with almost any meal. Unfortunately, rice had not yet been discovered in this world. Even with magic, creating a completely new plant species was impossible. The more Ryito thought about rice, the more he wanted to eat it. As a Japanese person, he missed enjoying good food. Just then, Mia and Manma arrived with some souvenirs. Ryito immediately noticed the box Mia was carrying. It was filled with special donuts. While holding a donut, Frau asked what it was. Navi explained that it was a type of fried sweet. Ryito became excited to try one. Manma was surprised by how energetic he seemed. Mia told everyone to go ahead and eat. She also shared some donuts with the flower folk. Ryito stared at his donut eagerly. It had been a long time since he had eaten junk food. However, the moment he took a bite, his smile disappeared. The donut was not very sweet. The dough felt dry and crumbly. It also smelled very greasy. Ryito could almost feel his stomach protesting. In his opinion, oily food was much easier for younger people to enjoy. Still, he knew he could not compare the food of this world to the food from his old world. Oil and sugar were expensive luxury items here, so the quality was naturally different. The girls, however, enjoyed the donuts. Even the flower folk seemed happy while eating them. Ryito decided he could not complain. The donuts had their own charm. A moment later, Manma excused herself while holding her stomach. Just as Ryito expected, the oil had been too much for her. Soon after, Mia leaned closer and asked if he had finished planting the wheat. Ryito finally realized why Mia had brought the souvenirs. She wanted to talk business. Mia insisted that his high-quality wheat would sell just as well as the bedding products. Ryuto reminded her that he had already refused because he did not want to affect market prices. Mia confidently told him to leave everything to her. Meanwhile, Frau froze when she noticed a little girl sitting beside Ryuto. At that moment, Monma returned after taking care of her stomach. She had been so focused on listening to Ryuto and Mia's argument that she did not notice the girl sitting next to him and happily eating a donut. Monma suddenly shouted, catching Ryuto's attention. She recognized the girl as the same little girl they had seen earlier. Ryuto looked happy to see her again. The little girl then hugged Ryuto and called him her father. Everyone was shocked, including Ryuto. The girl kept calling him father. The cat girls looked excited while Frau seemed confused. Navi trembled as her expression turned dark. Ryuto quickly asked why she was calling him father. He tried to explain that he had first met her in his dreams, but the others cut him off before he could finish. Mia said it was normal for someone to meet their child in a dream. Monma immediately wrote it down as a news story and agreed with Mia. She claimed it made sense if someone was hiding a secret child. Ryuto then looked at Navi. All he saw was what looked like a game over screen. She looked ready to kill someone. Ryuto loudly insisted it was all a misunderstanding. He explained that the girl had chosen to use the word herself. Monma jokingly said that a scandal like this finally made him a real man. Mia urged him to sell the wheat for the sake of his child. Ryuto quickly pointed out that he was not even married. Navi could not believe that Ryuto had secretly met another woman while she was in sleep mode. Ryuto firmly denied it and insisted he had never been in a relationship with any woman. He tried to explain that the little girl was actually the world tree, but Frau suddenly shushed him. She pointed out that the little girl had fallen asleep. Only then did Ryuto realize that the world tree had quietly fallen asleep in his arms. That night, Ryuto woke up on the sofa. He felt exhausted after the cats kept bothering him and after receiving Navi's killing intent up close. For some reason, Frau had been kinder than usual. He guessed that the world tree had run out of magic power, which was why she had fallen asleep so quickly. The world tree soon woke up and greeted Ryuto with a good morning. Even though it was already dark outside, Ryuto greeted her back and once again asked her to stop calling him father. He also asked if she was really the world tree. The girl stayed silent and only looked at him. Ryuto wondered why she would not answer. Even so, he felt happy to see her again. He decided to give her a name and called her Riko. As soon as she heard the name, the world tree ran out of the house. Ryuto wondered what had happened all of a sudden. Riko danced around the fields while repeating her new name. She proudly announced to the world that her name was now Riko. She thanked her father for giving it to her. Watching her, Ryuto realized how full of energy children could be. Riko then grabbed his hand and pulled him along. Before he knew it, he was running with her. After a while, she pointed toward a certain direction as if it was their destination. Then she suddenly disappeared. Ryuto guessed that she had run out of magic power again. He hoped he would get to see her later. More than anything, he wished for her to grow up well. At that moment, Navi appeared and confirmed that she had not detected any human biological signals from Riko. Ryuto immediately pointed out that this was exactly what he had been saying all along. Navi admitted that she had only been teasing him. Ryuto noticed that her personality seemed a little different lately. Navi insisted that she had been acting normally. Ryuto was not convinced. Still, he could not stop thinking about the direction Riko had pointed toward. Since it had been to the left, it meant she had been pointing west. The problem was that the area west of the fields was nothing but wasteland. Navi then reminded him that beyond the wasteland was the sea. Ryuto thought about it for a moment and suddenly realized something. He immediately asked Navi to open the map. Tracing the direction from their village, he discovered that beyond the sea to the west lay the Craig Empire, a region known for producing oil. The idea caught his interest. However, he knew that stabilizing the newly expanded village had to come first. Navi reminded him to focus on food-related tasks. After all, he always seemed happiest whenever he ate something delicious. Ryuto rushed back to his house and woke everyone up by force. The girls looked confused and wondered what was happening. Ryuto excitedly announced that he had finally decided on Tugan Village's next goal. He then created vines out of thin air and shaped them into a model ship. With great excitement, he declared that they would sail to Craig territory by ship. They would trade with others and enjoy plenty of delicious junk food together. Soon after, the group rode a cart toward their destination. Mia said the cart was very fast and Frau laughed with her. Ryuto told them not to worry because the cart had brakes. Mia said Monma should have come with them. Ryuto said she had some research to do. Monma sat alone at her work table and cried. Mia pointed out that Frau also looked like she was enjoying herself. Frau agreed and said it was her first time seeing the sea, so she was excited. Ryuto asked Navi how long it would take to reach the western coast. Navi estimated about 12 minutes before arrival. Before they reached the coast, Ryuto reviewed their plan with the girls. They were going across the sea to get high-quality oil for tasty junk food and donuts. Olives were produced on the other side of the sea and the place was known for making cooking oil. They were heading to Craig territory to start trade there. Frau checked the meaning of difficult words in her dictionary. Ryito asked Mia to handle the negotiations and Mia said to leave it to her. Since they were sneaking into another country, Rito reminded them to be careful and not draw attention. Mia did not expect him to speak so casually about the illegal part. However, she remembered that the sea region was dangerous. She asked if he even had a proper ship ready. Ryito smiled and told her not to worry because he had a secret weapon. At that moment, they finally reached their destination. Mia and Frau ran along the cliffside and saw the wide sea stretching out in front of them. Rito created an elevator made of plants growing from the cliff, and the group safely went down. They ran toward the water. Frau said she wanted to touch the sea. Ryito told her not to go too far. Frau said plants would grow in this place because there was a lot of water. But when she stepped into the sea, she called it poison. She believed all the bad things in the world flowed out and collected in the ocean. Ryito did not expect salt water to be harmful to Frau. Mia then asked where their ship was. Ryito said he was still making it. He threw a few seeds into the sea and used 3 spells at the same time: life promotion, life withering, and then repeated them. In an instant, a ship appeared. He named it Swift Maru. Mia thought the name sounded cool. Ryito explained that the hull was made from water-repellent hardy grass. The sail was a large leaf he created. The ship was powered by plant magic. It also had living quarters for several days of travel. Food and water were stored on board, including an apple tree and Ryito's new water magic from Undine. Mia said the rough sea would not be a problem. But Ryito admitted he did not know how to properly build a ship, so the design was mostly for show. Mia said they would definitely sink. She pointed out that a leaf boat was very risky. Ryito said a leaf boat was enough as long as it floated. He then asked Navi to help. Navi activated Undine's blessing and used Undine's power to control the water currents. The ship started moving, which surprised everyone. Navi could now guide the water by using the spirit's power. Because of this, they did not need much steering. The girls were shocked by how fast the ship moved. Then they became confused as Navi sped toward deeper waters, laughing as she enjoyed it. The others ran along the shore calling out to Navi because they were not on board yet. When everyone got on board thanks to Rito's vines, Rito noticed that Navi rarely acted that way. Navi felt embarrassed and apologized, saying she had gotten too focused while using divine authority. Rito was happy to see that she seemed to be enjoying herself. He trusted her with driving the ship, and Navi told him to leave it to her. Mia could tell that the two of them had grown closer than before. Navi then moved to the front of the ship and estimated that they would reach their destination in 2 days. Ryito announced that they were heading out to the Craig territory. In this world, there were 2 continents. In the middle was a large body of water called the Sea of Death. The northern and southern continents were separated by a sea region known as the Mateira Sea. It was a cursed sea that was said to pull anyone who tried to cross it down into the depths. Ryito's group planned to travel west toward the Craig territory while going south to avoid it. Since their route stayed far from the Mateira Sea, the trip was supposed to be safe and calm, or so it should have been. During the trip, Mia kept leaning over the side of the ship and vomiting. Ryito asked worriedly if she was okay. With a pale and messy face, Mia said she realized she could just throw up the furball, so it felt like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Ryito could clearly see she was not fine at all. Frau helped her calm down. Ryito also noticed that flower folk did not get seasick. Even so, the ocean waves slowly grew higher even though there was no wind. Navi's map also had not been stable for a while. Frau asked if he was alright. Ryito's expression turned dark as he remembered something worse from the past. His master had once left him on a raft in the middle of a violent sea filled with dangerous sea monsters. Suddenly, Navi reported an emergency. She said that for unknown reasons, the water spirit's authority had weakened, and they were slowly losing control of the water currents. Everyone was shocked by this news. Navi then confirmed that their ship was being dragged toward the Sea of Death. Ryito asked what was happening. Navi explained that an unknown noise was making accurate detection impossible. Ryito said he would use his plant powers to steer the ship. He told the others to hoist the sail and turn south with all their strength. The crew nervously called out to Ryito when they saw something ahead. Suddenly, a huge serpent monster rose out of the water. Ryito quickly wrapped vines around its head and told the others to hold on tight. The monster was slammed back into the sea, shaking the ship with strong waves. Mia asked what it was. Ryito asked Navi if the monster had been defeated. Blood appeared on the water's surface, but Navi confirmed there was still another presence directly below them. The monster circled them once, growled, and then left. Navi confirmed that it was moving away. Ryito wondered what was going on. Mia celebrated and said the monster had been scared away by Ryito. However, Ryito focused on the water and noticed something else beneath it. Several beings then rose from the sea, and they turned out to be friendly fish folk. Ryito asked if they had driven the sea monster away. Frau was happy to see them. Ryito did not expect these fish folk to have a higher rank among other sea creatures. The fish folk then began to speak. With Frau's translation, they said they had come because Undine had asked them to help. They explained that the sea territories were complex, and the power of the water spirit and the sea often became mixed and unstable, making it hard to control. Because of this, they would help guide the ship safely through the sea. Mia felt relieved. Rito decided to trust them. With the fish folks' help, the ship continued along the correct path. Rito and the girls enjoyed the fast journey. Navi felt sad. Rito assured her that they would travel by ship again someday. Frau looked up and noticed a seagull passing overhead. It seemed like it was interacting with her. She told Rito that the sea felt fun. Rito was glad to hear that. He thought she might also enjoy a dinosaur movie franchise. Navi then recalculated their arrival time and confirmed they would reach their destination at midnight in 2 days. 2 days later, along the coast of the Craig territory, several men were patrolling the area. 2 of them complained that guarding the remote coast felt useless. However, one man using a telescope spotted a ship in the distance. Before they could observe it clearly, it suddenly vanished in a flash of light. He broke out in a cold sweat and said it was a ghost ship. Meanwhile, a man named Julian Craig was in his bedroom gripping several letters in his fist. He complained that Adele had not replied to him yet. Suddenly, one of his men arrived with a report. He asked what was wrong in the middle of the night. They reported that a messenger from the northern watch of Funiculi village had seen a ghost ship. Julian was doubtful, but he still ordered the soldiers to investigate. The ghost ship turned out to be Rito's ship, which he had just unsummoned. They safely made it to land. Mia still felt a bit sick, so Frau helped her walk. Rito felt relieved that they had arrived safely. Navi praised him for doing a good job. Because of Navi's control of the water currents, they were able to reach land without trouble. No one would have expected them to land in such a remote place. Rito then asked Navi to scan for nearby villages. Navi confirmed that there were many humans about 2 kilometers southwest of their location. The girls put on their hoods because Rito told them to avoid standing out since they were trying to sneak in. At that moment, someone told them to stop and asked what they were doing outside so late at night. Rito and the others were surprised that they had been found so quickly. The hooded person then asked them to show their imperial citizen identification. Rito stammered and said they were not suspicious people. After hearing Rito's voice, the hooded person suddenly ran up and hugged him. The person then removed their hood. Mia and Frau were happy to see who it was. It turned out to be Adele. Adele happily said that it had been a long time. Adele did not expect to see Rito in a place like that. She quickly gave him a big hug. Mia remembered that Adele was an imperial princess or something similar. Frau confirmed it. At the same time, both girls wondered if Rito was still alive after being squeezed so tightly. After everyone calmed down, Adele asked if meeting again like this was fate. She said it had been a very long time. Frau and Mia agreed and said they were happy to see her again. Rito then asked why Adele was in the area. Adele's expression turned serious as she explained that she had important business nearby. More than that, she wanted to know why Rito and the girls were there. Frau tried to explain their reason, but Rito and Mia quickly stopped her. They said they had only come for a little sightseeing. Inside, Mia worried because they were now part of a smuggling group. Rito agreed and thought that they could never reveal the truth, no matter what happened. Adele said she would never pry into Rito's affairs. She believed he must have an important goal that could not be shared with others. Mia was surprised by how much trust Adele placed in him. Curious, Adele asked where they were headed. Rito nervously glanced at Mia before answering. He said there was a place to the southwest where many people gathered, and they planned to go there. Adele nodded and told them the place was called Funiculi village. She explained that she also had business there. Since they were going to the same destination, she offered to guide them. She suggested leaving while it was still dark so they could arrive sooner. Rito thanked her but felt it was unnecessary. Mia also thought they would only trouble her. Adele cheerfully insisted that it was no problem at all. Rito and Mia quietly spoke to each other. They agreed that if Adele learned anything about the olives, they would find a chance to escape immediately. The Craig territory lay south of the imperial capital. A volcano stood at its center and the climate stayed warm throughout the year. As they traveled, Mia drank from the small streams they found along the way. She felt grateful that Rito had the watering can skill because the land was so dry. Rito agreed. He noticed how the sea breeze carried dust everywhere and many of the fields had been left neglected. Suddenly, Frau's flower began to wilt and she collapsed to the ground. Mia quickly realized the reason. The fields around them were in terrible condition and the sight upset Frau deeply. Rito took a closer look at the crops. Wheat covered every field, but most of it was growing poorly. Since the fields were close to the sea, he expected to see measures against salt damage, but there were none. The land was dry, yet the volcanic soil drained water well, making it suitable for root vegetables. That made him wonder why the villagers planted only wheat. Mia asked if olives even grew in a place like this. Rito replied that he had heard the land was supposed to be fertile. Soon after, Adele told them they had finally reached Funiculi village. The village looked as if it had fallen apart long ago. Many houses were broken and not a single person could be seen outside. Navi sensed signs of life, but there were far fewer people than the number of homes suggested. Rito looked around and saw that almost everything in the village had been left in poor condition. Just then, someone asked why people like them had come to the village. In an instant, villagers stepped out of their homes and gathered around them. A woman with hopeless eyes stood before Ryito's group. The moment Mia saw her expression, she knew things would not go well. She believed that business started with trust, but the villagers looked at them with suspicion. There was no chance of gaining their trust right away. Ryito agreed. He had not seen a single olive tree anywhere nearby. He suggested gathering information about the area before leaving. Hearing this, Frau became worried. At that moment, Adele stepped forward and apologized for their sudden visit. She introduced herself as the honorary commander of the 11th Knight Order of the Romancia Empire. She announced that they had come to save the village. Her words only made Ryito and the others feel uneasy. A splash of water suddenly hit Adele in the face. Ryito, who stood behind her, was also soaked. An old woman holding a bucket glared at them. She said the water she had thrown was her drinking water for the entire week. She insisted they did not need saving and told them to leave. Later, while drying their clothes outside the village, Adele kept apologizing to Ryito. He assured her that it was fine and asked what had really happened. Adele became serious before explaining everything. She said that terrible rumors about the area had spread throughout the empire. During the 100-Year War against the demons, Lord Craig had forced the villagers to grow large amounts of wheat. However, wheat was not suitable for the region's climate and soil. The villagers had turned almost all of their land into wheat fields, yet their harvests remained poor. Adele had heard that the region had once been famous for producing oil. Ryito and Mia immediately realized she was talking about olives. Because of these policies, the villages had fallen into poverty. The men and young people had been sent to the army or forced to work in the mines. Many elderly people and children had died because they were too weak to survive. Even after the war ended, the cruel policies continued. The empire knew about the situation but chose to ignore it because of the Craig family's achievements during the war. Mia guessed that the evil lord had also taken away the villagers' livestock. Now that she mentioned it, Ryito realized he had not seen a single animal on the way to the village. Livestock were essential for farming communities. Even so, he wondered if the lord was truly cruel enough to go that far. Adele then explained that she had come to investigate these injustices and put an end to them. Besides that, she held a personal grudge against the current Lord Craig. The name sounded familiar to Ryito. Adele reminded him that he had met Craig several times on the battlefield. She described him as a loud man with the build of a bear. Ryito finally remembered him. Craig had loudly claimed that there was no way someone as skinny as Ryito could be the hero of invasion. He had mocked Ryito for being a plant mage and called him a gardener. Since Ryito always wore a mask, Craig had even assumed he had an ugly face underneath. Ryito realized that Craig was the man who had constantly picked pointless fights with him. He agreed that Craig acted like a thug, but he had no interest in getting involved with him. Still, Ryito asked why Adele was getting involved in this matter when it was not even her responsibility. Adele reminded him that she was both a princess and the knight commander of the empire. She was only trying to do whatever she could to help. When she visited Tugan village the other day, it made her rethink the way she had been living. Filled with determination, she hurried off and said she would ask the villagers again herself. If she had the chance, she wanted to visit Tugan village once more. After watching her leave, Ryito thought about how admirable Adele was. Mia then asked what they should do next. It seemed there were no more olive trees left in the area. Ryito apologized to everyone. He realized that the records about olives being grown in the region were from before the war. That information had never reached the imperial capital. Frau had been quiet for a while and looked sad. She finally spoke and said that Funiculi village was just like their own village. Mia suggested moving the villagers somewhere else. Ryito agreed that changing their environment could solve the problem, but it would also create new ones. He remembered the troubles he had faced as a working adult back on Earth. Because of that, he believed there was nothing outsiders like them could do. At that moment, Navi appeared and teasingly asked her master if he had stopped caring so much. Mia felt conflicted since they were already trying to smuggle products. Then Frau suddenly stood up and declared that she would follow Adele and teach the villagers how to grow plants. Just then, Navi sensed something strange and told everyone to stop. She said there was a faint reaction nearby. The group searched the area and soon found a cow that they believed belonged to the village. However, its eyes had rolled upward and saliva poured endlessly from its mouth. Meanwhile, Adele was once again told to go home. An old woman explained that the village could no longer be saved. She said they were only waiting for the Lord to abolish the village so the residents could be sent somewhere else. Abandoning their homeland was the only way they could survive. Even so, Adele argued that this place was their home. The old woman quickly replied that someone of noble birth like Adele could never understand their suffering. Suddenly, one of the villagers told everyone to go inside their houses because a monster had appeared. Adele told them to leave it to her and asked the old woman to help evacuate everyone. The old woman sighed and asked if Adele was going to kill it. She complained that people like Adele always acted that way. Ryito, who was being chased by a cow monster, told Adele to wait. He said the cow was likely the village's livestock. Mia concluded that the livestock had not been stolen but had been turned into monsters. The old woman hoped they would understand from this that their village had no future. Ryito, still being chased, could not believe how calm the old woman was. He realized this was a major discovery from a magical research point of view, since livestock had been turned into monsters. Adele was shocked that this was what he focused on. Navi said her master was being unethical. Rito apologized for letting his real thoughts slip out. Adele then thought this was why Rito had come. She respected him for thinking ahead like that. Mia realized Ryito could probably sell anything to Adele at a high price. Adele rolled up her sleeves and said to leave it to her. She stopped the cow monster's charge with her bare hands by grabbing both of its horns. She held her ground using her strength. The cow monster suddenly calmed down and fell to the ground. Adele began to pet it. The others were shocked that she had stopped the monster. However, on closer look, the cow monster had simply been held down by her physical strength. Adele said the cow monster had likely gone wild because of something, though Ryito doubted that. The villagers stood in confusion and amazement. Mia then asked Ryito if it was possible to grow olives in the village again. Ryito said they just needed the right technique and effort. Mia smirked and ran to the center of the village. She asked everyone to watch and said they had just seen the power of a saint. The villagers were still confused. Ryito wondered what she was talking about. Mia then formally introduced Adele again as an honorary knight commander and the sixth princess of the empire. She said even monsters became calm when held by her. The villagers said they had heard the rumors. Frau said Adele was amazing. However, this was the first time Ryito had heard about it. Mia then introduced Ryito to the people. She explained that he was the princess's attendant and a powerful archmage who had mastered all types of magic. Ryito felt surprised and did not know how to react. Mia noticed he was distracted and told him to use his ability. Ryito activated his watering can skill. Mia presented it as unlimited holy water from the water spirit and said it was free for everyone to use. The villagers drank the water and found it tasty and refreshing. An old woman quietly stared at the cup of water in shock. Navi corrected Mia and explained that the water was not truly unlimited because they were far from the water spirit. Mia ignored the correction and brushed it aside. Adele forced the cow-like monster to drink the water. After drinking, the creature returned to its normal form. Ryito was surprised because he did not expect his watering can skill to have an effect similar to holy water. Even the nearby wheat began to bloom and grow. The villagers celebrated because they believed their village could now be saved. They were happy that their cries had been heard by those in higher places. Ryito watched in amazement as Mia took control of the situation without hesitation. Mia then said she had prepared everything and that it was now Ryito's turn to show the southern continent what he could do. Ryito asked Frau for help. He then spoke to the villagers and showed them an olive, explaining that it was a high-quality crop that once grew in their land. Meanwhile, Craig's men checked the area where Ryito and the others had come ashore. They found no signs that anyone had landed. One of the men said it was time to head back. His partner suggested checking the nearby village, but they decided there was no point. After all, they did not believe a ghost ship could exist. Back in the village, the villagers stood frozen in shock. Trees had suddenly grown on the barren land right before their eyes. Ryito explained that they were olive trees. He said olives were useful in many ways and were also good for people's health. The villagers asked if he was really giving the trees to them. Ryito apologized and explained that they were not free. He wanted the villagers to grow the trees for him, and in return, he would buy the harvested olives. If the trees produced enough fruit, the village would still have plenty left even after paying taxes. He hoped to make a deal with them and promised to provide the tools and teach them how to grow the trees properly. However, the villagers refused. They angrily asked why they had to go through all that trouble. They wanted Ryito to grow wheat instead and solve their problems immediately. They wanted him to help them pay their taxes and fill their stomachs without effort. They begged him to save them and simply give them the wheat they needed. Ryito apologized once again and told them he had never intended to save them. He explained that growing wheat on their land was pointless because of the climate and the nearby sea. Olive trees were a much better fit for the area. More importantly, their goals matched because he also needed olives. He asked for their cooperation. He wanted to make a fair trade with them because he believed that standing as equals was the first step toward true freedom. The villagers let out heavy sighs. They started to doubt that the group was truly made up of saintesses. They felt they had wasted their time listening to them. Deep down, they believed no one would come to save them. The old woman stepped forward and asked how they were supposed to trust them. Mia quickly started calculating in her head. She considered the olive harvest season, living costs, taxes, and even added a little extra. After finishing her calculations, she took out a pouch and placed it before the villagers as an advance payment. The old woman looked at the pouch and seemed to recognize it immediately. An old man stepped closer and examined the coins inside. He said he had never seen such currency before and angrily accused them of trying to trick everyone. However, the old woman shook her head and explained that the coins were made of mithril. She said that even after paying next season's taxes, there would still be money left. After that, Ryito worked hard to turn one wheat field into an olive grove. He also restored the village's wheat fields, and they would remain healthy for about a month. For the larger farming project, Ryito needed to return to his own village and make preparations first. The villagers barely listened to his explanation. They were too excited as they watched green plants return to their once barren fields. Seeing their joy, Mia felt that her words were not reaching them at all. She quietly wondered if everything would turn out fine. Frau felt the same way. She had already taught the villagers how to plant the crops, but she was still worried. Ryito was not surprised. He believed things had always been bound to happen this way because trust took time to build. He understood that everyone was simply exhausted after struggling for so long. As evening arrived, Adele said she had already sent a letter to the imperial capital. She hoped it would make their plans more official. Ryito was not so sure. He knew that matters involving power, status, and money were never simple. Adele remained confident. She was ready to deal with anyone who stood in their way if things did not go as planned. Soon after, the old woman thanked them for all their hard work. She invited them to rest for a while and share a meal at her home. Mia and Frau were happy to hear that, but Ryito and Adele politely declined because they needed to return home. The old woman immediately frowned at them. She reminded them that they were all equals now and insisted that they stop being so formal and accept her invitation. They ended up going inside the village chief's house. Senya watched them eat while Ryito felt a little uncomfortable. He was surprised by how easily the girls enjoyed the meal and praised its taste. Still, he had to agree that the food was delicious. The stew had bright, beautiful colors, and the house looked clean and well cared for. It also felt different from the other homes in the village. Ryito's thoughts stopped when Mia noticed a painting on the wall. She asked if the man standing beside Senya in the painting was her husband. Senya confirmed that he was. He had died in the war. Mia quickly felt sorry for bringing it up, but Senya said she would not have displayed the painting if she did not want to remember him. A heavy silence filled the room. Everyone felt sad for a moment. Then Senya suddenly brightened up and said she had something to show them. She proudly led them outside and revealed the village's greatest treasure. It was a hot spring. Ryito could hardly believe it. He never expected to enjoy a hot spring in another world. The girls looked confused and wondered why he was so excited. Adele was shocked when she learned it was a bath. Since it was out in the open, she found it hard to believe people actually used it. Ryito thought that was exactly what made it special. Senya explained that everyone used the hot spring no matter their gender. Adele was even more surprised. She thought about it for a while and decided it would be better if she and Ryito bathed separately. Ryito agreed because that was what he had planned from the start. Senya then told them there was another hot spring nearby that the girls could use instead. Frau, however, believed the hot spring water was poisonous. Ryito promised to prepare clean water for her with his watering can skill. Meanwhile, Mia tried to avoid bathing and quietly slipped away. Ryito quickly stopped her. He reminded her that she had not been able to wash during their voyage. She'd even spent much of the trip feeling sick and throwing up. Mia insisted that she was clean enough because she groomed herself regularly. Ryito then asked Adele for help. Adele grabbed Mia and confidently told him to leave it to her. Relieved, Ryito happily headed toward the hot spring while Adele dragged Mia away. Mia angrily called Ryito a brute as she was taken away. As Ryito soaked in the warm water, he felt like his whole body was melting. The bath came from a volcanic spring, but the temperature was perfect. He wished he could build something like it in Tugan village, but there was no source of hot water there. He was also happy to hear that the girls liked it. Adele and Mia looked just as relaxed the moment they stepped into the bath. Adele soon drifted into her thoughts, while Mia tried to move away. To her surprise, her body felt too relaxed to move properly, so she stayed close to Adele. As Mia looked at her, she noticed several scars on Adele's right shoulder. Adele proudly showed them, saying they were proof of her life as a knight. Mia wondered why she had not healed them with magic. Adele explained that scars remained if healing magic was used too late. She had received treatment long after getting hurt because she had been fighting in a fierce battle at the time. She usually covered the scars with powder whenever she wore dresses. Mia thought life on the northern continent must have been difficult, but she found Adele's scars cool. Adele agreed with a smile. Ryito quietly listened and smiled as well. At that moment, Navi appeared and teased Adele for being the complete opposite of her master. Ryito immediately asked Navi not to appear so suddenly while he was bathing. Soon after, Senya joined the girls in the bath. She wondered if Adele would have avoided those scars if the war had never happened. She squeezed herself between Adele and Mia, making Mia complain that there was not enough space. Senya insisted that they were all equals. Her expression then became serious. She shared how her village had once been beautiful and prosperous. She also said that the lord in the past had not been foolish like the current one. Adele mentioned hearing that the previous rulers of the Craig territory had been kind and capable people. Senya said she had heard the same stories. However, the strict rule during the war slowly changed everything. Even the people in her village had become worn down after years of oppression and stress. Hearing that, Mia stood up and declared that the war was over. She believed everyone would have happier and more enjoyable days ahead. Ryito and Adele smiled at her words. Senya admitted that the person she used to be would have agreed, but now, she no longer wished for those things. 4 days later in Tugan village, Ryito checked the seeds, fertilizers, and farming tools they needed to bring. Frau and several flower folk were also ready to leave. Ryito believed they were about to carry out a large field replacement project, so they needed people with the right skills. Mia, however, felt worried. Entering another continent with a large group without permission could make them look like a criminal organization. Ryito even wondered how things had ended up this way. He looked at the young world tree with concern. After hearing Riko's revelation, he ended up training with Hunakuri village, but he still wondered if it was really the right thing to do. He even thought that Riko might have meant something else. Still, there was no time left to think about it. It was already time for them to return to Hunakuri village. Meanwhile, in the Privy Council at the imperial capital, a minister received a report that a letter from Adele had arrived. It contained the results of her investigation of Craig territory. According to the report, the villages were suffering because of Craig Julian's poor rule. Immediate action was needed and the lord of the territory should be summoned and given proper punishment. The minister let out a sigh. Adele had ended her engagement with Craig on her own and he could not understand what she was thinking. The messenger continued reading the report and mentioned Hunakuri village. The moment he heard that name, the minister panicked. He immediately ordered Craig to be summoned to the imperial capital and instructed that a letter be sent through an express dragon. He could not allow anyone to disturb that village. Soon after, Craig received a report saying that the ghost ship spotted by the Watchers a few days earlier had actually been Adele conducting an inspection. Because of her report, the high-ranking officials in the capital were furious. They ordered Craig to appear before them as soon as possible. Craig misunderstood the situation completely. He believed Adele was simply shy and too embarrassed to meet him in person. In his mind, that was why he had been called to the capital instead. He even thought she had rejected their marriage proposal at first because she wanted to get to know him better. His aide quickly reminded him that it was the Privy Council that had summoned him. Even so, Craig decided to visit Hunakuri village first. He still needed to collect the unpaid taxes. However, when Craig and his aide arrived, they were shocked. Rows of strange trees stood before them. Each tree carried unfamiliar fruits. What surprised Craig even more was seeing these poor villagers carrying mithril coins. Senya held out one of the coins as payment for taxes. She explained that it was enough to cover both the unpaid taxes and the taxes for the current season. She also stated that the village had already met the required amount of land for growing wheat and asked Craig to leave. At that moment, Craig realized that someone other than Adele had visited the village. He started clapping and praised the villagers for their successful economic activity. He claimed that, as their lord, he was happy to see their progress. Then his expression changed. He began listing the names of the villagers' sons and daughters who were still working for him. Some served in his army, others worked in his mansion, and some labored in his mines. He claimed that he wanted to share news of the village's growth with them. He demanded that the villagers explain everything. This territory belonged to him, and he refused to let anyone act however they wanted within it. Days later, Senya woke up looking tired and cold, as usual. She got out of bed, cleaned the portrait of herself and her husband, placed fresh flowers in front of it, and ate a small piece of bread for breakfast. Soon after, a villager reported that Ryito and the others had returned. Ryito and the girls then worked hard to capture the monsterized cows and restore them to normal using his watering can skill. After a while, Ryito grew tired and wondered how Mia and Adele still had so much energy. He found it hard to keep up with them. Navi pointed out that the problem was not their energy. In her view, her master was simply weak. While Frau, the flower folk, and the villagers worked in the fields, Ryito and the others focused on restoring the monsterized cattle. Even so, Ryito told Adele that she did not need to help because the work was part of his agreement with Touge village. Adele said she wanted to help the village as well. She also explained that she had no duties to handle as a knight at the moment. As a princess, she did not even have a suitor to marry. She made sure to repeat that point so Ryito would hear it clearly. Mia said they were not making any deal at all. She pointed out that they had spent too much effort and money on the operation, which made her think it would be better to grow the olives back in Tugan village. Prito looked guilty and tried to explain that his village was already at its limit and that the olives would only grow high quality in the right environment. Mia noticed that his hands were moving strangely while he explained. Navi said this was the result of halfway decent meddling. Ryito said that was not true. He then became serious and said he had already stopped doing things like that. The girls laughed at how serious he looked while he was getting licked by a cow. Adele apologized and said she could not help it. Senya then appeared and said she wanted to show them something. The girls got excited and thought it might be food or hot springs. Rito tried to refuse because he was still tired, but Senya moved close to his face. Ryito gave in to the pressure. Meanwhile, the flower folk ran around and helped the villagers tend the fields. Frau guided the villagers by pointing out shallow and tight planting, and she also told them to rest and drink water. She relayed messages from the flowerkin, who could not speak human language as she could. The villagers found them scary, but the work in the fields improved a lot. An old man stood and stared blankly into the distance. Frau asked if he was okay. He said he was just spacing out. Frau left and came back with fruit and a cup of water for him. She said that rest was important. The man agreed to rest and hesitantly thanked her. In a nearby mountain, Senya introduced the place as Mount Photia to the others. She said it used to glow bright red at night, but it no longer erupted. The group walked along the mountain trail while cattle followed behind them. Ryito was covered in sweat and said he was reaching his limit. Adele offered to carry him, but Ryito stopped for a moment and said that was too much. Mia noticed that he had considered it for a moment. Mia then asked Senya if something was on the summit. Senya was quietly sweating and said there was nothing there, and that it was only part of her daily routine. She said she walked the same path every day. Sometimes she went with her grandmother, her mother, and even her husband. They would talk or walk in silence, and they would pick flowers to place in a vase. She said this was a routine her husband loved very much. Adele thought it was wonderful, but Mia found it boring. Ryito, however, felt that something was off. He asked if Senya really brought them to the summit for that reason. Senya then told them to follow her and placed her hand on a nearby rock wall. A cave entrance suddenly appeared. She said the purpose of her routine was to protect the hidden place. Ignoring Mia's shocked reaction, Senya told them to follow her inside. Adele looked around and realized it was similar to the mountains back in Tugan village. Ryito struggled to move forward because he felt a strong burning heat as he entered the cave. As they reached the end of the cave, a small stream of magma flowed from the wall. Navi confirmed that there were high concentrations of fire attribute aerial mana. This shocked Ryito because it meant the cave had been a dungeon all along. Adele was even more shocked because she believed all dungeons had already been closed. Navi then confirmed that the cave had not fully formed into a dungeon yet because it was still missing some requirements. Ryito tried to ask what the place really was, but Mia suddenly screamed. The cat girl saw Senya push her hand into the burning stream of lava from the wall. Senya did not show any pain and pulled her hand back after a few seconds. Everyone was left speechless as Senya held a bright orb in her hand. She explained that it was her family's duty to protect it and that she was now giving it to Ryito. Ryito wondered if it was some kind of stone. The orb moved toward his hand and he briefly imagined his hand melting from its light, but it was only an illusion. The orb, cracked in the middle, stopped glowing and landed safely in his palm. He asked what it was. Senya explained that it had been passed down since her great-grandmother, and that it had been entrusted to her family by the Empire 100 years ago. Navi confirmed that she could not scan the object because it was protected by something. Adele remembered that this was around the time the century-long war against demons had begun. Senya then told them to hurry back to the village because Craig Julian was waiting. Frau and the flower folk were being questioned at that moment. Navi detected people nearby but thought they were just villagers. Adele tried to ask more, but Mia asked Senya first if she had betrayed them. Senya reminded them that they were equals and that she had only made a fair exchange to gain the best result. Ryito then realized that Senya had given him the village's secret treasure so he could deal with Craig and save the village. Adele got angry and ran off. As she hurried away, she told Senya that she did not need to be so indirect. Ryito asked her to at least rely on him. He used his magic to create a minecart and a track made from plants so he could follow her. Navi warned him that using a minecart in the mountains was dangerous. Ryito said it would be fine as long as he controlled it while moving. Before Ryito left, Senya questioned whether paying taxes could really solve things easily, and whether gaining freedom was that simple. She explained that Craig was the kind of man who would not change his mind unless he faced someone powerful. She also said ordinary people could not do anything against him. She put her trust in Ryito, knowing him not only as a plant mage but as the hero of invasion, and asked him to take responsibility. Adele kept running down the mountain, but Ryito eventually caught up to her. He asked her to get on the minecart. Adele rode with him, and they headed straight toward the village. During the ride, Ryito realized he had been naive. He understood that talking about negotiations and equality had been foolish. Adele stayed quiet after hearing this, but she soon noticed people ahead on the road. Craig thanked an old villager for guiding him. He then greeted Adelia loudly and said he already knew Ryito was nearby. He tried to accuse Ryito of invading his land and wanting the princess. Ryito did not listen and kept telling him to move away. Before anything could continue, Craig could not react in time and was hit by the minecart. Ryito and Adele continued rolling forward after the impact. While still riding, Ryito wondered if they had really run over Craig. Adele realized they would need to report the incident and even suggested she would take responsibility as the driver. Craig got back up and angrily asked Ryito if he was trying to kill him to ruin his engagement to Adele. Adele panicked after hearing this. Ryito heard about the engagement for the first time. Meanwhile, Mia and Senya were left behind. Mia could not believe she was not brought along even though she was involved in the business. She rode a cow and told it to hurry back to the village. Another cow bit her tail, which made her angry. She then decided to go on her own. Xenia suggested that they stay behind because things could become dangerous. Mia refused because she did not want anyone ruining her trade. She also questioned why Xenia handled things that way and said they would have helped if she had simply asked. Xenia said she did not want to be saved and only wanted everything to end. At that moment, the stone she had given to Ryito started to glow strongly. Ryito was suddenly swallowed by flames. At the same time, the cattle became aggressive again. Riko, who was waiting in Tugan village, looked toward Ryito's direction with a worried expression. Back in the village, an old man kept the flower folk inside a house and asked them not to remove their hoods. He also apologized for locking them up without warning. The flower folk felt uneasy as they noticed soldiers outside. The old man explained that the hero would deal with the dangerous people and told them to endure the situation for a while. Frau understood that he was referring to Ryito. He believed this was the only way to keep the village safe. Meanwhile, Ryito held his chest tightly and broke into a cold sweat. He felt relieved that the situation had settled. Adele checked on him because she was worried. Ryito felt that the stone had reacted and asked Navi about it. Navi said she did not know the cause but confirmed that his internal mana had grown. Adele assumed that Ryito had reached his stamina limit again. Craig saw how close Ryito and Adele were and grew jealous. He accused Ryito of flirting with his fiancée. Adele immediately struck Craig and firmly stated that she had already rejected his proposal and that the engagement had been arranged without her consent. Craig was impressed by her strength but still felt frustrated that words did not change anything. Ryito said that this was just how Craig acted. Craig then demanded to know why Ryito was in his territory. He accused Ryito of making excuses and assumed that he had come because of Adele. This surprised Adele, and she shyly reacted to the idea. Ryito quickly denied it and told them to focus on the real issue instead. Adele arrived in the territory and announced that she had come to stop Craig's poor rule. She told him to go to the imperial capital at once. Confused, Craig asked what she meant by poor rule. Adele said he was forcing heavy taxes on the people and using them as workers in an unfair way. Craig said he did not understand her complaint. He reminded her that they were in a border region. He explained that the sea to the south led to the Guild Alliance and the southwest led to a... He said there was always a risk of invasion, so they needed to prepare food and weapons for war. He claimed he was only making full use of people who were too weak to resist and said she should be thanking him instead. Adele said nothing could justify the suffering of the people. Craig then asked her a question. He wanted to know if she had a better solution. After criticizing him, what would she do instead? Adele could not answer. Craig said standing there would not solve anything. He suggested continuing the discussion at his castle and ordered that the disrespectful ones be left out, referring to Ryito. His soldiers were ordered to capture Ryito. He also said he would personally host the princess. He warned Ryito not to resist or the people in his village would suffer. Ryito allowed himself to be taken without fighting. Adele insisted that Ryito and the others had nothing to do with her actions. Ryito realized how serious the situation had become. Craig looked at Ryito and agreed that the princess was not involved. He said it would be a serious problem if the public found out she had met with an exile. Suddenly, they felt the ground shake and thought it was an earthquake. But it was actually a herd of angry cattle rushing down from the mountains. Mia and Xenia were holding onto the back of the leader. Craig and his men were confused when they saw the herd. Adele and Ryito felt worried for Mia and Xenia. The cattle now had horns that were on fire. Navi explained that the situation was unclear. Even the cattle that had returned to normal had turned into monsters again. Their transformation had also reached a new stage. She also sensed the same fire-type mana from the cattle that was similar to what was inside the cave. Craig's men said the herd was heading toward them. Julian assumed that Ryito had hired a monster tamer, but Ryito denied it. Ryito then suspected that the stone was causing the transformation. He realized it was the same stone Riko had pointed out earlier. Craig's men began to retreat, and Ryito told Adele that they should fall back as well. He told her to run alongside the trolley, study the situation, and rescue Mia and the others. He also asked Navi to inform the rest of the group. Adele suddenly focused on something she could hear. She ran off and told Ryito to take care of the villagers while she went to save Mia and Xenia. Ryito tried to stop her, but she had already jumped into the middle of the raging herd. Seeing this, Ryito decided to act on his own. He created another trolley cart and a railroad that led straight to the village. He was frustrated that Adele was pushing herself too hard. Navi said Adele's judgment was correct. Ryito already knew this. He noticed that the cattle were following the first railroad he had created. He realized their destination was the village. He understood that everyone was in danger. Suddenly, Craig asked Ryito why he was not helping the princess. Ryito angrily asked why Craig had gotten on the trolley without permission. Craig shook Ryito and angrily asked what would happen if something bad happened to the princess. Ryito snapped. He mentioned that he had fought alongside Adele and her Night Order during the war. He made it clear that he knew her much better than Craig did. This shocked Craig. Craig explained that plants were weak against fire. To make up for that weakness, Ryito had trained his magic to become much stronger. If he used his magic fully, both the mountains and the village would be destroyed by his plant roots. Because of this power, people called him the hero of invasion. He said that Adele knew he could not use his magic in this situation, which was why she trusted him to protect the village instead. He then said he would go back and save everyone. Craig said that the abandoned village did not matter anymore and told Ryito to use his magic to destroy the monsters along with it. Ryito could not believe what he was hearing. Craig also said that he had always hated Ryito and his indecisive personality. He said that fighting multiple enemies was the job of a support mage like him. Ryito then showed Craig the stone he had received from Senya. Craig did not recognize it at all. Realizing he could not reason with him, Ryito used his vines to throw Craig off the trolley and left him behind. Craig shouted once more that he hated Ryito and he felt strangely relieved after saying it. Ryito ignored him. However, the stone Senya had said came from the capital was something even the lord of the territory did not know about. This meant it likely came from someone of a higher rank. He could not help but curse out loud. He wondered why he always got pulled into troublesome situations. He just wanted to eat some delicious donuts. Meanwhile, Mia was trying to wake Senya, who had tried to save her. Adele then leaped across the cattle's backs until she reached the two of them. Mia felt relieved to see her. The cow's running caused Senya to be thrown off its back. Mia did her best to hold on to the unconscious old woman. Adele quickly grabbed Senya and told Mia to jump onto her ride. She then asked how the situation happened. Mia said she did not know. The cows had suddenly gone on a rampage. Senya tried to help Mia, but the cow violently shook them off its back. She felt guilty because she thought she might have caused it. Adele did not believe that was the reason for the rampage. Senya apologized again and said it was her fault. Adele only looked at her in silence. Mia asked Adele if she could stop the rampaging cows. Adele said she could handle it if it were only one. Mia imagined this and realized they could easily get crushed. Adele then wondered what she should do. She felt pressured because of Craig's provocation earlier. Still, she wanted to save Mia and Senya, and she promised herself that she would protect them. Then she heard something again. She heard the cow she was riding. She patted its back and also promised to save it. At that moment, the flames on the cow disappeared and it stopped running. Mia was shocked to see this. Adele told Mia to take care of Senya and then left. She ran toward the other cows to stop them with her bare hands. The head-on collision caused an explosion and everything was blown away. Mia's cow suddenly fainted, and Senya fell off. Mia panicked when she saw that the old woman had an injured arm. She tried to tell Adele about it, but Adele also looked injured as she stood up from the crash site. Meanwhile, in the village, Craig's men were tied to a well using vines. One of them thought that weak fighters like them would never be able to defeat the hero anyway. Ryito asked if everyone was alright. Frau and the others came out to greet him. Ryito felt relieved to see them, but the flower folk seemed more worried about him. Frau said there were soldiers outside. Ryito told her they were already tied up. The old man said he expected that much from the hero. Ryito wanted to complain to the villagers, but for now he asked the old man to stop calling him that title. He then told the flower folk to gather everyone in one place because they needed to evacuate. He said the monsterized cows were heading straight for the village, and at this rate everything would be destroyed. He asked them to help with the evacuation. Suddenly the old man angrily told him to stop. He asked if Ryito was telling them to abandon their village. He told Ryito to stop the cows using magic since he was the hero. Ryito glared at him and pointed out that using his magic would ruin the land that provided food for both the villagers and the cows. The old man said that it did not matter and only wanted him to save their homes. Ryito coldly said he would tie up the old man and drag him if he had to. Frau held onto his sleeve. Ryito noticed her worried expression. The old man said their children would one day return with families of their own. Even if the village was gone, there would be nothing left for them to come back to. He held on to Ryito and talked about how their simple houses still carried memories and hope. Because of that, they continued living through hardship. He then dropped to his knees and begged, saying they could survive without anything as long as the village was saved. Ryito stayed silent. He remembered that he had seen situations like this many times before. Frau, who had been worried, said that a home mattered. She explained that it was where people laughed together in the sunlight, stayed safe from the wind, and slept at night. Without a home, there was no real life. Ryito took her trembling hands. He then asked Navi for a logical answer. Navi replied that whatever her master chose was the rational path. Ryito said her answer was irresponsible. Navi then said she was only showing that she supported her master's decision. Ryito thought for a while and decided to use the fields in front of the village to stop the cows. He then asked the flower folk to gather the hiding villagers because they also needed to help. He told them to hurry since the cows were almost at the village. The old man thanked Ryito. Frau apologized to Ryito because she thought he would like it. Ryito realized that Frau remembered something he had told her before. He told her it was fine and blamed himself for being too soft-hearted. The villagers slowly came out one by one with the help of the flower folk. Ryuto created a tall pole at the front of the village and stood on it. From there he got a clear view of the fields. Navi confirmed that the cows would arrive in 5 minutes. Ryuto asked about the others. Navi confirmed that Adele, Mia, and Senya had already stopped fighting the cows and disengaged. Ryuto decided that he would be fine. The cows were also an important resource for the village, so he needed to stop all of them at the same time. Even a small delay or mistake could cause a disaster. He adjusted the plants to match the cows' speed and reduce their momentum. Navi suggested using his staff, and Ryuto decided to use it only when needed. He then asked Navi to improve positional sensitivity as much as possible. Ryuto activated his all-creation skill and focused on not damaging the land while keeping the roots as shallow as possible. He realized how difficult it was. Navi confirmed that the targets were within range. Magic circles appeared above the cows and followed their movement. They spread toward the cows' legs. Ryuto timed it carefully and used his growth acceleration skill on the roots. All the cows were trapped at the same time. However, the monsterized cows did not stop charging forward. Even with their numbers, the thin roots were not strong enough to stop them. Navi confirmed that the roots were not deep enough. Ryuto decided to keep regenerating the plants instead of making the roots deeper.